Anyway, we can go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
You ready? Okay, so let's call this meeting to order. It's the October 29th. It's a regular council meeting, but this is kind of a special council meeting, so let's all stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so roll call. Jonathan's
I'm here virtually, remotely.
and Chris, are you on virtually as well? Looks like.
Are you able to hear me?
I heard you. Can you
Okay,
hear
great.
me?
Yes, I can. Just a little soft.
Okay, we'll come back to Chris here. JJ here, Carol.
Here.
Bob here. And Chris, you can hear it? Yeah, looks like you're off mute.
I already said here. Can you hear me?
We can now. Okay, so we are going to be speaking to the Elkhorn project here, and this is a continue from the October 9th. And discussion, possible amendment of the official town zoning map to rezone parcels 81, 81, 2, 4, and 5, also known as Elkhorn Springs Development. So let's go to that one first. And actually, before I do that, there's no open. There's nothing for an open session for people to talk. So, but I do want to recognize a member of the staff, Alicia Fairborn, who's been just a terrific resource for the past, how many, 5+ years, Alicia, and this is her last day. I can't remember exactly.
My last council meeting. So I'll be here till next week. Or the week after.
And just a terrific job and a terrific person you are. And I know you've got a lot with your family. Jan, do you want to add anything to
A
that?
big thank you. Alicia has been a significant part of this town for the last 5 years, have been in serious growth, and she's just done an excellent job. So thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Well, I bet you get the same comment from everybody here, so to speak, if not more. So thank you, Alicia.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so do we have everyone here from the Elkhorn, Eric and Spencer and
Patrick.
Okay, so and Nate's remote. Nate, can you say hi to us from Spain, wherever you
Yes,
are?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Hello.
Is that
It is very, I'll tell you, it's very hard to hear though.
Maybe we could place this a little bit closer. What do you think?
We can. Let me see if I-
Or turn up
Turn
the
the volume.
reception?
Nate, it's midnight in Spain, so that's about the time people start heading out to dinner. So I hope we're not interfering with your dinner plans.
Exactly. I just ate the biggest steak of my life and it's 11 o'clock here. So
Oh,
it's crazy.
that's right, they already had their daylight savings, yeah. Hey, you and I are both on European time, so if we both fall asleep, it's okay.
All right. Thanks.
So, I was gonna say, I don't know if we want the staff report probably initially and then go to Nate, or how would you like to do that one on this? Because we've done this a couple of times, so.
I can give you
It's
guys
really
a
an
quick
update.
overview. It's really an update, just kind of catch you guys up
Yeah,
on sequencing and what's happened today. And then we could certainly turn it over to Nate, and Dennis may have a report to go over as well.
sounds good.
All right, so thanks, council. So as you guys are aware, you guys have heard this a couple of times. You guys have requested additional information, some MDA cleanups and updates, and so that's what we're here to do tonight. I wanted to give a little bit of a background because I think you all had asked for it at the last meeting with regard to the initiation of this project when it really first came into the community and how it progressed. It came in, it was first heard for the eastern half of the property. And that was in July 18th of 2024. It came to the planning commission. Again, that was for the eastern half of the property. You know, the property was generally an eastern parcel and the western parcel. At that time, the applicant had requested 164 units and about 15 to 20,000 square feet of commercial. On January 16th of 2025, a new application was presented, which included the entire parcel, both the east and the west. And at that time, the request was for 211 units and 3 units of neighborhood commercial. On February 18th of 2025, the concept plan was approved by the planning commission, essentially giving the applicant and the project the head nod to continue moving forward with the rezone request and associated NDA. And then in July of 2025, the planning commission reviewed some new amendments, the zoning request, and forwarded a positive recommendation with conditions to council. And that's when it started to appear before the town council in August. So just, again, this proposal does include a fair number of exceptions. We tried to outline those in the MDA. They're actually baked into the MDA, and they're also included in Exhibit S of the MDA. It's 230 residential lots and 1 commercial lot that cover the entire 115 acres with some associated open space. If this were a by right proposal, it would probably accommodate about 70 to 90 units of housing at 1 unit per acre, take away steep slopes, take away transportation network, etc. So this is an increase in density being requested. I think at the last meeting, you guys wanted a quick summation of the exceptions. Again, Exhibit S and the heart of the MDA cover those, but there is an exception for where every lot in the development relative to either setbacks or sizes, etc. That includes the R20 for townhome building setbacks and some rear setbacks in the R20 and neighborhood mixed use districts along SR 248, where typically we require 50 feet. They're getting down near 17, 18, 20, 30 feet in some cases. 19% of the land with slopes over 30% will be disturbed. That requires an exception. That's also noted within the NDA. Cut and fill is significant on the site, about 34% of the site being developed, excluding the open space, which is about 16, 17 acres. Will have cut and fill greater than what the code allows, which is 5 feet of cut or 5 feet of fill. In some cases, it is up to 15 feet. So there are some pretty significant exceptions being requested. I think you guys have been aware of those. They are contained within the MDA. We've got some issues that we think require your input and direction, but maybe before I go through those, maybe I should turn it over to the applicant to maybe walk through this project before we get into these kind of detailed issues, unless you want to go into maybe Dennis's report as an overview.
Yeah, I'd say let's do Dennis and then Dennis, anything you want to add is in terms of your report from an engineering standpoint?
Yeah, thanks. I think when this was originally presented on the 9th, I did submit an engineering report. There were several items that needed to be addressed. I think most of those have been addressed to my satisfaction or what my concerns were. I did want to just mention a couple of things. One, the grade for the secondary access road at 12% needs to be approved by the Wasatch Fire District. I have not received any verification of that, but the applicant is continuing to work with the fire district to address that. And they're in agreement to do that. So they'll meet whatever the fire district requires for that secondary access road. Let's see, another item where there was the estimate for the trails, there was some money toward that, $58,000. Again, I would emphasize that is not for construction drawings to construct the trail, but rather just your preliminary design and kind of, just a preliminary layout. continue there's still issues about access in and out off of 248. The applicant is working with UDOT on that, and I'm representing the town also in some discussions with UDOT on not just entrances into the Elkhorn subdivision, but also just in general that corridor and trying to make improvements there. Let me see. We did ask that there be a stamped slope map. That has not been provided, but they do need their engineer to stamp that and submit it. They also need to provide a wetland delineation map. That hasn't been in the submittal as to date. They've agreed to do that. And so we're waiting on that. That could impact a couple of lots that they have. And they've acknowledged that, yeah, it could. And if they needed to lose those, that, that would be a result of that wetland delineation and the offset from the wetland or the setback from the wetland. And that's, like I said, most of the other items that I had of those, dozen or so items are, I think have been addressed and, okay with.
Thanks, Dennis. Before we move on to any questions from the council or either Thomas or Dennis? Assuming that's not the case, then turning it over to Eric and Spencer and Patrick and Mr. Brockman. Thank you.
Nate? Great. I'll just start. I want to just say thank you so much for everyone meeting tonight. I know several people are out of the country and out of town. But just thank you for letting us have this opportunity to present Elkhorn, and appreciate just all the time and effort everyone's put in, Polly and Dennis and Thomas. It's been fabulous the last couple weeks getting everything to the point it is today. And then, geez, just kind of fell off my chair when I heard Alicia's leaving. She's been part of just helping us for 5 years. And so thank you, Alicia. You've been just fabulous to work with, and you'll be missed up in Hideout. So just to start things off, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just to start things off, I know I read a letter from a couple tenants in Eagle. I think it's Eagle Mountain or Glen Eagle, or I don't know, something Eagle. About nightly rentals. We're not asking for nightly rentals. We're not trying to get nightly rentals. So I just want to put that to bed completely. And then one issue that's come up is just the phasing of the entire development. What we'd like to commit to do is not have any timeframes in there, but we will commit before we move on to the next phase to put the amenities in, have the amenities finished. So for example, if there's a park in phase 2, we won't move to phase 3 until the park is finished. And then the wetland issue has come up a couple times. We don't feel like there's any wetlands. I'll get this delineated, but we're okay moving the lots in the development, or losing those lots if we can't find a place for those. There's 4 lots that are in question that are too close to the you might be considered wetlands, but we don't feel like they're wetlands. We feel like they're man-made. The pond is 100% a man-made wetland, if it's a wetland at all, which it's not. We could, and if you want to hear more about it, Paul Watson's prepared to talk about that. And then there's a drain that goes underneath the road where the other wetland has some wetland grasses, could be considered a wetland, but once again, it's a man-made wetland. There's no place for the water to go. We don't feel like that's a wetland, but I will get someone out there to do a delineation. But in the agreement, we're proposing that we have in the agreement, in the development agreement, that we lose those lots or remove those lots if there is a wetland. So I think those are the 3 big issues that we've been going back and forth on. But I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of those. And maybe I can take any questions or concerns. The other thing we'd like to just talk about is the timing of the development agreement. We started out with 15 years, it got dropped down to 10 for some reason. We would like to ask for 15 years and ask for a 5-year extension on that. Right now in the development agreement it says 2. We just think with all the things that are in front of us, it's 230 lots is a big subdivision. And I think Pat or Spencer might be able to speak on this a little bit more because they've done so much developing and building. And so I think those are really the only issues that we're just want to talk about. So other than that, I just take any questions, and I know Eric and Pat and Spencer are also there.
Well, hey, Dennis, since Dennis is on, he brought up the wetlands. I think that, putting that to rest would be a good idea, or at least understanding what your next step would be if it's considered wetlands, and who decides that? That's not you guys, that's not us. So who decides if it's a wetland piece of land? Dennis, can you chime in there?
Sorry, struggling with my mute button. Yeah, I mean, I think what our code says is that it needs to be by qualified professional approved by the town engineer. So I'm happy to work with the applicant on getting somebody out there who's qualified, and if they determine that it is not a wetland, then so be it. And if not, I guess the applicants agreed that those lots, they may lose those 2 lots. So we'll just go from there. And I if we want to memorialize that in the agreement somehow, then that might be a condition. But I think that's how we would proceed, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, Dennis, we use a guy named Dennis Wanger. He's probably the best in the state, and he's definitely certified. We've used him on several different developments, and so he'll be the one to come out.
Okay, well, maybe Paul and I can talk about that, or whomever, and we'll.
Yeah, if you have someone else, that'd be great. But Dennis Wanger has he's probably the best in the state, so he would be the one to determine.
Can
he's
we
got
agree
he's got a good name, so.
Yeah.
Can we agree that if there's a wetland issue, that the lots will either be dropped or moved to a mutually agreeable location? And by mutually agreeable, I mean the town and the developer. Can we agree to that term?
Yes, and I believe that's in the development agreement now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other comments by the council?
Is it possible to see a map of the 2 lots?
Yes.
I think there's a concept plan right after my report. Maybe it's right after Dennis's report. So keep going down. I think the concept plan is after Dennis's. Keep going.
Page 63.
Keep going. Oh, these are the
Page 63.
I'm just typing. If they know the page, though. Okay. You can just type in right here, page 62. And then hit enter. Oh, it's turning page. That will. That work?
Do you want me to point out where these 2 lots are? So there's a bit of a drainage pattern that comes down through here. The wetlands in question are right here. The 2 lots would be these 2, the first 2 lots. And I think they're slightly reconfigured from what you see on this particular colored concept plan, but they're these 2 lots right here. And for those of you who had an opportunity to walk the site, you might remember that they may be man-made wetlands, natural, they haven't been delineated as we've just discussed, but there is a pretty good pattern of drainage that goes through here. And so I think Nate is proposing to keep those, keep that area open. We would recommend that. In fact, we had a discussion item in the report that noted, if they're wetlands, he noted that in the MDA, he would remove those 2 lots or move them to another location. We actually wanted to discuss with you, even if they're not natural wetlands, they're man-made. Would you recommend moving those 2 lots to another location? It would be our recommendation because that is also a mini wildlife corridor, but that is council's discussion point.
I had another question about the 2 lots that would be to the left of the pond, closest to the house. And I know he removed 1 lot. I'm still thinking that those lots are so close to the pond. And the pond was supposed to be an open space area for residents and things. And it seems to me that if the people are there, like right now, there's a built walkway, kind of like a bridge that goes out to the pond. And I thought it was so close to that. I mean, if they put a deck on their home, people are gonna be almost right under that deck. So I really didn't like the size of those lots. I just thought it was they were way too close to the pond. That's just my opinion, but.
A couple of people noted that when we did the site visit, and so Nate did remove the 1. And I think we pushed the setbacks back a little bit on those, but to your point, they're pretty close. Is there enough space to actually walk around that pond without being on private property? That's questionable. We don't know that. We haven't done that, or Dave hasn't done that level of survey. I mean, if you thought that was, if you had a concern with that, you wanted to preserve that area, and maybe the other 2 lots over near the yet to be determined man-made or natural wetlands, maybe we could look for a place on the site to remove on the development site, remove those 4 lots, create almost a 4-plex or kind of a different kind of housing typology, which you also have all been asking for. We could probably find another location on site and work with Nate.
I did go on the site visit. We did walk out on the wooden walkway and area. I just thought it was really close.
Yeah,
So
it is tight.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be they're about 50 feet right now from the home. That includes the backyard and about 20 to 30 feet between the pond and the home. So we feel like there's plenty of room, and we can, that pond is man-made. It was man-made by the previous owner of the, I don't even think it was built by the Salzman. I think it was by the previous owner. And so that pond can be shifted. It can be moved. It's definitely not a wetland. It's man-made. And so, if we need to, I'd rather not say we can just lose those lots, because there's only a few places we can put extra lots or put lots. We can definitely talk about it. But I think it'd be better maybe just to move the pond 20 or 30 feet if that's possible. So let's just say that we would, we can talk about those 2 lots. We've agreed in the development agreement that if that pond is considered a wetland by our wetland engineer, that we would move those lots. We are 100% sure that the pond is not a wetland. It's fed by water rights. It's fed by not a well, or so we're 100% that's not a wetland, and we'll get that letter. The other 2, it's up, we don't feel like it's a wetland because there's a pipe that goes right underneath the street. But in the development agreement, these 4 lots are addressed. That if it is a wetland, we'll either move those or lose those lots. But to your point, if you do have a deck, I mean, we're about 50 feet, 55 feet from the pond, from the home. Hey, well, let's just say 40 feet, because the backyard, we've cut the backyard off, but you're still a good 30 to 40 feet from that pond. The home would be.
Nate, just from a planning landscape architecture perspective, our recommendation would be not removing the pond and the riparian vegetation that's around it, but to potentially look at relocating the lot. Certainly this is a council decision, but there is a fair amount of wetland native, riparian vegetation that has grown up around that pond. It's pretty
But all those
spectacular
weeds.
for the pond part, yeah. We would recommend trying to keep the pond in place and if needed, maybe move the lots.
Yeah, and I didn't mean lose the pond. I'm saying we could shift the pond over to give more room if that's,
Pretty
we can't
spectacular.
lose $2 million worth of
Go ahead, Nate.
lots.
Was that you, Nate?
We'd rather shift the pond. Can you hear me?
Nate, we're not hearing you. There's no sound coming.
You're not hearing me at all?
I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
Nate.
I can hear him. Is it
Okay.
not coming through at town hall?
Now it's coming through.
Okay, what I was just saying is, we don't want to lose the pond. We think that's a good part for, it helps the park down there. It's, but what we're saying is, what I'm saying is that we can maybe shift that pond over to give more room between the lots and the homes. But like I say, it's addressed in the development agreement, the 4 lots, those 2 that were by the pond and the 2 that are over, that you just pointed out to the council, Thomas. Those are addressed in the development agreement. We've agreed that if those are wetlands, then we will move the lots or figure out the wetland. Those 4 lots are addressed.
So the question for council is, are you comfortable with that if they're designated as wetlands versus if they're not? Because they are a landscape feature there right now, whether they're wetlands or not. That's the question.
Not sure what input you want on that from anyone, Thomas, so, anyone want to share their feelings about
Well,
it?
I think the question is, Nate has put into the MDA that he will remove the 2 lots or the 2 lots near the potential wetlands or the 2 lots near the pond. He will move them to another location if they're delineated as wetlands pursuant to the Army Corps of Engineers. If they're not, then what you see is what you get. The question is, are you comfortable with that, given the quality of that landscape? Again, whether Army Corps of Engineers designates or not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Carol, the point she brought up. Those do look very close to the pond. And given that this proposal is requesting significant variance, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Sorry, still in Italy time. Given that the proposal is requesting significant variances, if it were to be approved, those variances will need to be offset. So I would recommend losing those 2 lots right there to enhance the community green space. Yeah. Was that where you were going?
Yes,
Okay.
or at least reduced in the size of the building or the size of the lot.
Yeah.
That it's a different type of building.
We can certainly work with Nate to relocate those lots. I think it is tight. I think you guys are right. You walked to the site, you know.
I did, yeah. I mean, to me, it was very tight.
And whether it's natural or man-made, it looks to be man-made, it is, regardless, it is a feature of the property, and that's certainly a selling point. So, my 2 cents.
Yeah, for sure, we'll work with Thomas on moving those or figuring out what to do with the pond.
Thomas, is there adequate area in your mind to move those lots?
I think so, yeah, we can certainly look at other areas along the proposed rights of way where there might be some space, maybe even a 4-plex, something like that, to accommodate up to those 4 lots. I think we can do that and still maintain the character that we're looking for up there.
Anyone else have any comments for?
Yeah.
Thomas or-
Yeah, my hand's been up for a while. Is that how we're doing this? Raising my hand when I'm ready to give input?
Go for it, Chris. I can't see anything because I don't have, if Kathleen, are you running?
It's right. It's fine.
Go for
Okay,
it.
so regarding the pond, I mean, it is a man-made feature. If it can be reconfigured to be that landscape feature, I'm fine with that. If the lots can be relocated, that's great, but I'm okay with that discussion, but I'd like to, when we're ready, move on to some of the harder questions. And I don't know if we're ready for that.
Well, I'm not sure what your harder questions are, Chris, but we still haven't heard from, this was more for around.
This is
Tom.
about the pond. We're only talking about the pond and the 2 lots right now.
Well, we're talking about what Thomas presented and what Dennis presented and getting comments from council on
Right.
that, which,
Okay, so I'm going to launch right into it then, because Thomas also presented, a bunch of requested exceptions. So cut and fill covers a large expanse. There's some discussion of cut and fill 2-to-1 versus 3-to-1. I wanted to talk about that. And then setback exceptions everywhere. And I think that's really something we, as a council, need to talk through, because I mean, it seems like every lot has an exception.
Let
And
me
that's the
just
hard
address
stuff.
some of, yeah, let me address some of the exceptions. Every lot in the R6 zone will have an exception because the side yard setback said, I forget the word, but the word,
Conditional.
conditional. So even if, no matter who does an R6 zone, there will be it's a conditional side yard setback. We're asking for 10 feet. And we're asking for 10 feet on every single lot that we have, basically the same as Lakeview. And I think even Deer Waters and Deer Springs have that 10-foot side yard setback. So that's one of the reasons every single lot has to have a variance, is because of the side yard setback condition in the R6. And most of our lots are, I think all of our lots are in the R6. We have a few in the R3. And then your zone doesn't really address the stack flats. They're in the R20 zone. I think it's a 200-foot side yard setback, and it just doesn't really address. There's no reason to have a 200-foot side yard setback, so we're asking for variances there. And then, I mean, we meet the front yard, the rear yard, and everything. Basically, everything we're asking for is the side yard setbacks. And I don't, and Thomas can maybe speak to this, why, I think some of the code had 200 feet. So other codes had 50 feet side yard setbacks. And we're asking for a 10-foot side yard setback. The same thing we've done in Deer Springs, Deer Waters, and Lakeview Estates.
The code
And then
for
I think Paul Watson, let's just jump right into this. Paul Watson, and I think we've worked this out with staff, but let's talk about the 2-to-1 slope and the 3-to-1. And Paul, I think you're prepared to speak about that.
Yeah, I can speak about it when I'm asked.
Okay. Would someone ask Paul to speak about that rather than me?
I'll go ahead.
Oh, no, wait, hold on a second. We kind of glossed over the setbacks, and we're going to go back to that. I mean, I'm okay going on to the 2-to-1, 3-to-1 engineering discussion, but I do want to come back to the setbacks.
So with regard to the setbacks in the code for attached structures, townhouse structures, or stacked flats, there are significantly larger setbacks to allow for open space between those larger structures. In some cases, 150 to 200 feet. Nate is asking for a reduction to, is it 50 feet, Nate? I forgot what number you're going to on those particular ones.
No, 10 feet between, so it'd be 20 feet between the buildings.
Between the buildings, what is it, Polly?
30, so in council, I sent out, to just have like an overview of all the exceptions. I tried to do a high level one of each of the zones. So for the stacked flats, side yard back setback is 20 feet is requested, 30 feet is required under the code. Same with the rear setback for the stacked flats in the NMU zone.
Well, the reason we initiated the side yard setbacks to be wider back in 2020 was to protect view sheds as well. So, you know, that was a big, if you, I mean, just look around town, you can see the problems that we've had. So whether you're alluding to the fact that we had, you know, that previous developments have complied with that former standard is fine, but we're trying to get to a better standard, so to speak. So maybe we can talk to how we get to a better place on this, with even the variances that are being asked, you know, so do we, you know, does it look equivalent or equal to what we're trying to accomplish in town? I don't know if that's where Chris is going, but, you know, I think maybe we're talking about the same thing here.
Yeah,
Chris,
so
do you have
Ralph, I'll
anything
just,
to add?
yeah, I'll just say, yes, that is exactly where I'm going. You know, we have standards for a reason. And back in 2020, when our, our code was changed, and you were there, on the planning commission, that is the reason we wanted to make sure that we were not continuing to perpetuate some conditions that we had approved prior to that, that, you know, now we can see in action what it's like. The difference between 20 feet, 30 feet, is, you know, significant.
Yeah,
So
and
what I'm asking is why are we, making all of these exceptions for this particular project? You know, not that I just want, for the record, I'm not against this project in any way. I'm excited about this project. I just trying to understand why, as a council, we would just take what our standards are and just make exception after exception after exception.
Could I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
In our meeting for the general plan, which was about a month ago, I thought one of our main priorities was to preserve views for all the people in Hideout. That was a reason that was listed that so many people moved here, was because of the view. And so if we reduce the view corridors, we're not really adhering to what people want in a general plan.
Well, personally, I agree with you because I kind of wrote that standard back in 2020 because I saw so many problems in town.
Right.
And, you know, this is, well, in any case, this is like the third time I've seen this problem, you know, it's like, hey, I don't know how we would attack this because, Nate, you kind of put together an entire program here. It's, you know, it's a big picture. Tell us your thoughts about how you're going to protect view sheds, given that you've created the variances that bring us back to our old code to some extent. I would love to hear your philosophy, or at least your reasoning, to the council, because I think several of us have the same issue.
Yeah, well, there's several reasons. I mean, and several ways to still have the corridors, you know, slopes is one way to make sure you still have view sheds and view corridors. It's not necessarily just side yards. And the backyard of, you know, 25 feet gives you 25 feet of distance. Then you have the road, then you have another 30 feet. So you're talking about between homes in the front and rear yard, you have over 100 feet. And in this, on this hill, 100 feet could give you 30 or 40 feet of difference. So your view corridor is you know, sure, you're looking over a house, you know, and sometimes you would be looking between houses. But yeah, you would, you know, so slope is one of them. One thing I've heard the council say, and this is, you know, this has not been brought up in the developments agreements that we've talked, you know, since August, you guys have had the development agreement, and this, I didn't know this was a big issue. But where I was going with this is that, let's see, I can't even remember. My steak's getting to my stomach now.
Hey, Nate,
Okay,
maybe I
but-
can interrupt you here, because I know sometimes when you're traveling, it's hard to get your clock that set, so I think both.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, but I was gonna, I mean, what I don't see here is like a contour map where we could show, view sheds. And so we have a top-down, map that we're looking at here. It would have been really good, I think, if we could have seen because there's so many variances, particularly on the side yard setbacks that create obstruction of views, particularly in single-family homes if they're not centered correctly. We have a better idea of how what does this view shed look like? And
Yeah.
I don't see that here.
Well, I don't know, we'll just see this.
Yeah, we don't have that. Where I was going is,
It would be a
you know,
contour.
ever since I've been in the town for the past 5 or 6 years, it's always been about cost. And this reduces the cost, by having narrower side yard setbacks. We're able to produce a product that can not only compete, but it can actually, not anyone, but you still have to, but it does affect pricing to have the type of lots we're having. And that's one thing you guys have talked about. You want a different kinds of housing to be able to get different kinds of people in there. We never wanted to do the stack flats. We've agreed to do them because it's a different kind of housing that you guys wanted, and it'll be our low price housing. It'll be our lowest price house that we offer in this development. And then you go to the smaller lots, and then you go to our bigger lots. And so and then you have our townhomes. And so we're hitting basically 4 or 5 different price ranges, which is very unique for a subdivision like Lakeview Estates. You're basically, you have your lot and you're selling, the same price for each lot. You might have a lot premium or two, but other than that, you just don't have much difference in pricing. Here we'll have 4 or 5 different kind of homes, different kinds of pricing to be able to get more families, more people moving in. If we were to have 50 to 60 foot wide setbacks, well, then basically we're to the 70 to 90 lots. Why do all this stuff? Why give you guys the $4.5 to $5 million? Why build all these parks? We'd have to build a few parks, no question. We would not have to do all the extra things we're doing as part of this subdivision by allowing us to do the smaller lots. We're able to less pricing and able to give you guys, make this work for everyone. So.
Nate?
But if we were to adhere to the standards that were set and not ask for variances, there's no reason for us to come in. We just do 1 acre lots, basically.
Nate, maybe we could have Paul also, if he has anything helpful for the council to address the view, that we designed it the way we did as it relates to the view and the contours. Can you hear me, Nate?
I can hear you, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah. One of the things that we need to think about is across this project. I mean, our elevation is 200 feet of elevation gain from just the property line to the south to the property line to the north. And then we also have another 100 feet down to the UDOT right away in a lot of the cases. All these houses, they're meant to kind of stack as where they're going up the hill. So every house is either a walkout basement or a walkout upper story. So basically the house on the high side will look over the house on the low side to get your views. We've kept a lot of corridors open, I mean, for view corridors, but we're really not blocking views of anybody that's on this site. And even Golden Eagle is still another, 50 to 100 feet higher than this. So everybody is basically looking over their neighbor's rooftop down towards Jordanelle. Hopefully that added to it a little bit. And on the previous comment for the grading, if we look at one of the exhibits that has the contours on there, you can see the 2-foot contours. But yeah, the short answer is 200 feet of elevation gain across the project. One house looks over the roof of the next one.
I'm a staunch protector of existing views. If you own a house in Hideout and have a view, I'm all for absolutely protecting your view. However, it seems to me we have competing interests here. And those are, on one hand, if you want diversity of housing, some very high price, some medium, some low price, there are certain compromises that are going to have to be made. And it strikes me that this is, while it may not be the perfect compromise, but if you want diversity in your housing stock, there are trade-offs. And one of those trade-offs is going to be the view. Because otherwise, if you want everyone to have a perfect view, we're talking about, a lot fewer houses, and each of those houses is going to be way more expensive. And I think it's just simple, it's a simple economic trade-off from my perspective.
Exactly right.
You're exactly right, Jonathan. I wish I would have said it that way, but that's exactly right. Chris, does that answer your question or concern?
Yeah, in fact, I was one who was advocating for diversity in housing stuff. So no, it's been a good conversation. The question is, are we striking the right balance here with, the setbacks? Some of the homes be a little bit smaller so that there's a little more space between them. I don't know.
Well, as you know, we feel like we're good builders and good developers up here, and we've done a nice job with everything that we've done. And you have the two owners of homes sitting right there. And I think they can speak for themselves, and their track record speaks for themselves. We do what we say we're going to do. We want nothing more than every single house have the best view in the state. But to accomplish what I hear the council saying with, pricing variances, because, like I said, we get a lot more money for if you have unobstructed views. But it can't be done with what we've been talking about doing it. And we've had great success in what we're doing on our Lakeview project. When the market goes soft, we're still selling. And Deer Springs and Deer Waters, I'm done. I think we sold our last home. And so, what we've done, and I think we sell like 65% of the homes in Hideout. It just goes to people like what we've done. We offered it at a very fair price, and people have made a lot of money on our homes because prices continue to go up. But we, as a builder and as a developer, I appreciate that. I don't want homes to go down that we've built and sold. We want them to have appreciation. And so, I hopefully answered that for you, Chris, but like Jonathan said, there's a little bit of give and take.
Nate, can you make sure when you speak, you're close to your mic?
I'm as close as I can be.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, I can hear them just fine.
Okay.
On the Zoom. Nate, I heard everything just fine. Maybe it's in the room.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll speak louder too, but my wife is sitting here. So, and I think it's 1 a.m. here, but I'll speak as loud as I can. Chris,
Are you
okay with that?
Yeah, no, I'm okay with the discussion. I'm glad the council had the discussion and you two, Nate. It's made me feel better, at least, about all the exceptions, because I do have to agree with Jonathan the way he put it. And Nate, you had already said that, but it's just in a different way before that. What about the driveway lengths? We'll call them the setbacks from the curb. One of the, I think some people pet peeves are their driveways are too short, or you can't park full size pickup truck in there. Can we go over that? As far as setbacks from back of curb.
Yeah, I'll have Paul address this after me if that's okay. But this is a big deal to us also, and I don't know if you remember when the first Boulders project came in. They had some 4 and 5 foot driveways, and it's just stuff that just didn't work. And so that's why, I mean, I think our shortest driveway is 25 feet. Paul, you'd have to answer that, but we have a lot of our driveways that have the sidewalk on the side are 35 feet. And so, you know, plenty of length. Paul, why don't you address that? And after you're done with that, if you would address the 2-to-1 and 3-to-1, because this is a big deal to us. And I think it should be a big deal to the council. Paul, why don't you explain the driveways and then the 2-to-1 to 3-to-1 slope?
All right. On our roadway cross section, if you're on the side that does not have the sidewalk, our setbacks from the curb and gutter are either 26 feet or 31 feet. Your code is 25. So on the side of the road without the sidewalk, we've got really big driveways. On the sides with the sidewalks, we are at either 18 or 23. Again,
Well,
but that's
Paul,
to
but that's
the
behind the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
We're
But that's
still
behind the
meeting the code
sidewalk, so you can
of
add another
26 to
10
31
feet
from
to
the curb
that.
and gutter. But from the sidewalk on those units, it's 18 or 23. To address the 2-to-1 versus the 3-to-1 slope, the reason why we're trying to do the 2-to-1 is just because we daylight so much faster, which means that I disturb less ground. It also means I move a lot less cubic yards of dirt. There's so much rock in this area that really, I mean, on the cut slope, I mean, we could stack it at a 1/2-to-1 in areas where we don't have lots, and you would even disturb a whole lot less. But the whole priority is there's a trade-off. 3-to-1 works great for flatter projects. 2-to-1 works better for projects that are in the mountains just because you're disturbing less.
And there's a letter in your packet that Paul has done over, I think it was 20,000 miles of engineering, and he always does 2-to-1.
Yeah,
UDOT right now UDOT does 2-to-1 slopes.
I mean,
so it's not something that yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, the 2-to-1 is pretty much standard everywhere. Out of the last 30 years of engineering I've done, I mean, anytime you're in a mountain, if you're not next to a lot, I mean, it's been a 2-to-1 slope. It's just a geotechnical standard. Everybody does it unless there's some criteria to make it go flatter. I mean, I would agree if your cuts are, I mean, a few feet, then the 3-to-1 blends into the hillside better. But yeah, you're really trading off. I mean, do you save more trees or do you make the cutbacks better? Because it's not a geotechnical problem because we could even go steeper than that and still be safe on the cut slope. The fill slope, like I said, we've always done a 2-to-1 slope.
I just add one thing, and maybe Dennis and Paul could chime in, but we did discuss this with Dennis, and I don't want to speak for Dennis, but it's my understanding that Dennis feels fine with that as long as the vegetation would take. And so, and if Paul could prepare a letter indicating such, and Paul has prepared that letter, it's in your materials, that vegetation would take. So it's my understanding that Dennis is fine with this. In fact, the fact that he didn't mention any problem with it to be in his initial thing suggested to me that he is fine with it. But I don't want to speak for him, and maybe he didn't think we were addressing that issue yet. So
let me ask you a question. If we were to go to a 3-to-1 compared to 2-to-1, is it almost double or triple the grading that would need to be done on the site?
Yeah, because you're looking at a slope of a 2-to-1, which is a 50% slope, or a 3-to-1, which is a 33. So you'd be chasing that slope way up the hill. So I don't know if you're double the amount of cubic yards of dirt you're moving, but you're way up there. And then you still have to let everything regrow back in.
Paul said
It
the
seems-
3-to-1 slope is made really for basically flat ground.
Yeah. I mean,
2-to-1
we
is
do
definitely.
we
Can you
do
hear me?
parks at a 3.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
You can mow grass with a lawnmower at a 3-to-1 slope.
So I think that just so council is clear, so they're asking to go to the 2-to-1 slope, which would be a 50% slope. I think we put conditions, both Dennis's report and my report, that if they go to the 2-to-1, they commit to ensuring that the slope is stabilized, that it would be hydroseeded and planted with some rooted plants so that we would not have an erosion issue on the sides. And I think that they've committed to that. Did I capture
We
that
have
right?
committed to that.
Yeah, we'll back it up with geotech reports. Like I said, I'm not nervous about that because I've done it so many years and have had almost zero problems.
Right, and I think part of the town's concern is certainly safety first, but second is the scarring on the slope as you go up. So we just want to make sure that we do get that revegetated. And Dennis, I think ultimately, were we comfortable with the 2-to-1? I should say, are you comfortable with 2-to-1?
Yeah, yes, I am. The town code said 3-to-1, but the discussion that we've had on the 2-to-1 versus 3-to-1, I mean, I have nothing to add. I mean, I think that it's all right on. And I think that the trade-off is really, unless you had really, really poor soils, which we don't have here. Do you want to scar more of the land or minimize that? And 2-to-1 certainly does that. And like I said, it can be done safely. And if it can be revegetated, that mitigates erosion problems. They just need to make sure that that's done and done correctly.
I think that we ended up landing at 2-to-1 is a decent compromise. It doesn't spread the profile in plan view as far in terms of trying to, if you were to go to 3-to-1, just as long as landscaping and slope stabilization is a condition. Paul, could I just go back to one thing that one of the council people asked with regard to driveway lengths? You noted that the driveways on the side of the road with the trails would be 18 to 23 feet. They're 18 to 23 feet from the trail into the front of the house, right? So there is no overhang or blocking of the trail, right?
Yeah. So that 18 feet is from the back of the sidewalk to the front setback of the house.
So that the trails would of course be able to be used without being impeded by vehicles, F-150s. Don't take them on the F-150s.
Any other comments on the setbacks or the sloping?
I get it.
Go for it.
Hey, Nate, Bob Abelberg, if I read your setbacks on the exhibit, I-1 and 2 correctly, in terms of, housing space next to one another, at any point, there has to be at least 20 feet. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. Our very minimum is 10-foot side yards. So when you have a house next to a house, that's 10 plus 10. And that's really a fire code issue. If you were to go closer than that, then you got to change a bunch of architecture. So everything we have out there is 10-foot side yard plus 10-foot side yard to your next house. At the very least.
I live in Shoreline, I'm sorry, not Shoreline, Silver Sky. And if I recall, you have to have 10-foot side setbacks. So the closest any house where I live on Shoreline, I'm going to keep going, it's Silver Sky, has to be at least 20 feet. And I believe that's the same in Shoreline Phase 1. Does that sound right?
I think that was the old standard.
Yes,
so
and that's what ours is.
Yeah, it was 10 for all the old standard.
I forgot.
That was the original standard in town was 10 and 10.
Okay, and then also they just looking at the general plan, it looks like that the rear setbacks can be as short as 10 feet, and many of the lots are, correct?
Paul, will you please address that? I think we only asked for 2 or 3 and that was around the pond and the 2 around the wetlands. So it's just basically the 4 lots around the wetlands. Paul, is there any other lots that have a smaller rear yard setback?
No, really just those 2. Well, we do have the rear yard setback for the UDOT. But
Well,
as far as
that's not a rear yard. That's just
yeah, that's a UDOT setback.
Yeah, it's a UDOT setback. That's not a rear yard setback. So
correct. Other than that,
Bob,
it's just those 4 lots.
There's only those 4 lots, and 2 of the lots around the pond was something that was asked by us because the lots were getting too close to the pond. it sounds like that issue is taken care of. The other two lots, we asked for a 0 lot line setback around the first wetland that we talked about. And though that's going to get worked out one way or the other. The lots will either get bigger if it's not a wetland, or we'll have to move those lots. And so other than that, we have the standard setback that the zone required. I think
sent
that's
out
20 feet or 25, I don't remember.
the exceptions.
It was 20.
And so it's true that they are not asking for less than 20-foot rear yard setbacks anywhere, but the 20-foot rear yard setback is an exception to our code in the zones, the R20 zone. They requested 20 feet, and under the code in R20, 50-foot setback is required. In R6, there's, they meet the 20 feet required, what the ones he just said. In the NMU, they're asking for 20 feet and 30 feet is required. So for all the buildings in the NMU, they're asking for 20 feet. And so they're all asking for a reduction.
I'll go for it. All right, okay, thanks for answering that. A few other things, I'm looking at Exhibit I-2. And if you look at the western side, west-southwesterly side, starting on lot 507, heading eastward through 502, coming around the street back to the west, 501 through 605. It looks like those houses back up to each other pretty close. And I think you might only have 40 feet between structures. Am I reading that correctly? Because that seems awfully tight.
That is correct. We have those setbacks there, so yes.
So is there anything, all right, so the lots 501, or I'm sorry, is that six? I can't even tell. 501, 601, all the way through 605. Based on my understanding of the topography, those lots will be sitting higher than lots 502 through 507. I would imagine there's probably going to be a 10 or 20 foot difference, maybe. Is there going to be a retaining wall there or any type of fencing to maintain the privacy between those lots? Because otherwise, both the homes that back up to one another, you're going to be looking in each other's houses. 40 feet is not a lot of space.
So the elevation difference on the front of 503 versus like 602, we're 20 feet of elevation difference. So back to our previous discussion where the backyard of 602 walks out in their basement is at the same elevation as your upper story walkout on 503. So your upper story of 602 will look over the top of 503. But yeah, we're 20 feet elevation difference from the front of 602 to the front of 503.
Bob, you have a good eye. Those are what I'd consider our worst lots in the development. But you know, obviously they'll be priced accordingly, but that 20 foot of difference is a big deal.
Yeah, and I've lived in high density communities. My last subdivision in Dallas, before I moved to this beautiful space, we had that. We had my yard. I think it was only 25 feet deep, but there was a beautiful 6 foot brick wall right there. And then with some nice placement of landscaping, you could actually turn that into a cozy little grotto, a little oasis. We actually had enough room to put a pool back there. So did you envision, in terms of, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, is there going to be any fence or any type of natural landscape barrier proposed in here just to maintain some semblance of privacy?
We haven't got to the point where we're landscaping each lot. I don't think there's walls in between those lots right now. We could do some landscaping with some trees, but then you don't want to block views, with the trees. But Paul, I don't think there's not any walls in between those lots, is there? And fencing is not, we can't do any fencing in all of Hideout. And so we're not doing any fencing at all there.
There are no walls planned behind those lots. We've actually eliminated 90% of our walls because of some previous comments. So a good example between the 503 and 602 is no walls. Apparently we can't do fences either, but they're roughly the same height for that basement versus the other upper story walkout.
All I could say is that Thomas, I think he reviews the landscape plans and he could look at that, because I'm hearing exactly what you're saying. And like I say, when I feel like these are our toughest lots in the development. And so, some extra landscaping or something might be important. That's something the Holmeses would determine with Thomas.
Yeah, and there was also some similar issues on the eastern side of the neighborhood, similar issues with homes backing up to one another. Just for clarification, obviously you're gonna have to put a retaining wall in there. And it's not gonna be a 20-foot high straight wall. I believe the code still requires, Thomas, you might be the guy to ask, is it every 4 to 6 feet you have to stagger it? Is that the way?
Every 5 feet. So we allow for 6 feet for a retaining wall, a single retaining wall. If we go higher than that, we allow for up to a 10-foot retaining wall, 5 foot vertical, 5 foot horizontal setback, a tiering, and then a 5 foot vertical.
So that they would have to do a similar type of wall on the lots that I brought it into the example.
And the answer is yes, they're requesting some exceptions up to, I think, 12-foot high walls, but they would be tiered. Is that correct, Paul?
I think there's some confusion.
Yeah. There's a retaining wall exhibit of where we're planning those walls. But as far as the backyard of 503, we are not planning a wall there. Because remember, we're taking up 10 feet in each of the buildings between the basement or the upper story walkout. So that's how I'm getting around all those walls. So we do not have a wall in those areas.
You said it was a 20-foot height difference between the lots. I don't see how you're gonna do that without a wall, but.
It's because you walk out your basement. So on lot 602, your garage is at your roadway elevation. Then you walk down 10 feet to your basement, and then you have a walkout door right there. Whereas 503, you go in your garage, and then you have whatever room's there, and then you walk upstairs and you walk out of your upper level. So that's how I'm taking up the 20 feet without doing any walls. So we're taking up the 10 feet in the building.
All right, not a lot I would personally buy, but if you think you guys can sell them, yeah, as Nate said, it would be priced accordingly. Okay.
Thanks for your comment, Bob.
Any other thoughts on the variances or the slopes?
My thought on variance is, in an ideal world, we would stick to the code and never vary it. But we're not living in the flatlands here. We're living in the mountains. And in my view, anyway, where a variance will get the town, it benefits the town, I think we ought to do it. Where a variance would not benefit the town, then I think we should not. And in this case, on balance, with the entire project in view, it seems to me that these variances do benefit the town because they get us towards our goals. Is it a perfect balance? Well, let's not let good, perfect be the enemy of the good. But it seems to me that so long as variances benefit the town, then I think we're headed in the right direction.
Thanks, Jonathan. Should we move? I do have a question about if we can move on from this. And that is, unless there's other comments here from the council, just, jump in here. I do have a question on the traffic situation. We talked about this. I know it came out of, it was also a topic of concern by the planning commission. Where are we at the end here, Nate, or team, Nate team, on the turnaround on 248 to get into the project here. Was there was a couple of different suggestions. Can you give us an update on what you're talking to UDOT about? Because there was certainly some concerns about, if your car is stopped at 248, even if it's at a light, you're subject to being whacked in the back, so to speak. So, Nate, any further conversations you've had with UDOT around this, and anything that you want to say supporting your current position?
Yeah, nothing more to add. Like in our last meeting, I said that we would meet with UDOT and talk to them. Right now, they have a light planned at Golden Eagle. And our understanding from our last meeting, which was about 2 months ago, that there would be a U-turn signal there we asked for a right in, right out at our intersection. They have said no to this point. We've done a traffic study. We presented the traffic study to them, and they still said no to this point. I know the mayor. I know Mayor, you've met with them. I think Dennis has met with them on this, and other items in the town. They came up, but right now we have a left in, left out, and they're planning on doing a traffic signal at Golden Eagle that's going to have a U-turn that only can be turned at the signal of a U-turn. And so that's where we're at on the intersection.
And we never went into, you never took it to another level.
I said, we said we would go meet with UDOT after you guys met with them and see if there's something we could do. We would much rather have a left in, left out, but right now they've said no.
Yeah, and that was my last understanding with UDOT, the two traffic engineers. But we did talk about potentially doing a jug handle at the two-way side. I know that's more expensive, but it's safer. Have you explored either or the cost or the potential of doing something like that?
Not since our last meeting, but like I said in the last meeting, it's only been 2 weeks, and so we said we would look into it. We've just been getting this development agreement put together to try to get it into your hands in a timely manner. So if we get approved tonight, we will definitely look at other options and hire a traffic engineer and see if there's something else we can do, or something we can do with UDOT to let them do a ride in, ride in, ride out.
All right, Nate, I'll count on that then. I'll hold you to your word, so to speak, because
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, if anything here, we want good side yard setbacks and the rest, but we don't want people dying on the road. So,
Yeah.
we had issues with that in other areas near Hideout. So, we could continue to work on that to get the best result over time. I would say that would serve the buyers in this community as well as our new residents. So I'll
Agree.
leave it at-
Thanks,
Anyone else other on the council, any other topics of important, concerns?
Are we still discussing variances here, or?
We can, sure.
Just the general plan?
We can discuss variances or the general plan.
Okay, well, let me go back to Bravo again. Where's I2? I2 is the west side. One of the variances, I believe, involve, for lack of a better word, impeding on the UDOT right away. Did I read that right, Polly? Was there a thing in there about that?
Yeah, so they're asking for variant for exceptions. UDOT requires a 50-foot setback, or our code requires a 50-foot setback from the UDOT right away.
Okay.
And they're asking for reductions for that.
Okay, so that's our Hideout's codes 50-foot from the Utah right of way, which isn't necessarily the road, it's the right of way, the road plus however many feet or meters, whatever they measure to the side for various reasons. So, all right, I wasn't sure if that was anything we could even grant. One thing here I see that might give some of our residents some heartburn is if we look at Exhibit I2. And I know the roads have not been named yet, but the westerlymost road that ends in a cul-de-sac, there appears to be a cluster of, those are townhomes, correct? Those look like they're pretty close together, and they, looks like that might block a lot of the view corridors, especially for the folks in lots 513 all the way down through maybe lots 508. And I might suggest that, see, you have a threeplex on the west side and a fourplex and a fourplex. I might suggest you lose a unit on each of the fourplexes, just so we had some better view corridors. I think that dense of the clustering, in my opinion, a little bit of an eyesore. I'm assuming these townhomes are sticking to the 35-foot height restriction. You're not asking for a variance in that, correct?
No, we're not.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
maybe Paul could address again the,
Elevation difference.
yeah. Paul?
Same issue as before. Like I said, the lot on the right, so 511 is still an upper story walkout, whereas 520, 521, 22, 23 are all basement walkouts. So the intent is that you're 10 feet higher on 511 on your upper story. If you're looking at garage door to garage door, you're at the same elevation. But if you're looking at the upper story of 511, then you're kind of looking over the top. And then to go back to a previous comment about the distance, so that the setback is a city code setback for the 50 feet. But from the property line in front of like 531 down to the asphalt, we're 284 feet and over 100 feet of elevation difference. So the UDOT setback issue is a city code issue, not a UDOT issue. Hopefully I addressed both of your comments.
okay. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying there. Still, I think from an aesthetic point of view, if you thin that out a little bit, if you turn those fourplexes into maybe threeplexes, I think aesthetically, that would be a much better look for the neighborhood. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. Maybe there's somewhere else you could put those additional units. I'm not a big fan of fourplexes or larger. I think it makes the neighborhood look more like an apartment complex. That's just my personal opinion. You know, your architecture is very nice, but when you cluster it very, very densely, that can have some adverse effects. That would be my 2 cents in it. That's it.
I mean, we could definitely look at that. And see, I don't have the map in front of me to see. Paul, can you move those over at all and make those like, how many units are we talking there? 7? Can you make them 2 threeplexes and a single, or, you know, I don't know. I don't have it in front of me to be able to talk about it, but
We are constrained by a 30% slope to the
okay.
north of 517. And so the only way to do that is either to drop a unit and slide them further apart or live with
We
it.
really, I mean, honestly, we really don't want to drop any units. There is a place in the development, but the planning commission did not want any on our main road coming in. We had townhomes on that main road where the 16 acres is, where the whole trail system is. We took all those off and had to put them, you know, we lost some, put them over to these areas. I mean, that's an area that if you guys would consider that, we could put them back and it opens up quite a bit. I don't love that idea, but I don't know how you guys feel about it. The planning commission did not want lots on that side, on that road, on the trail, you know, the trail side of that 16 acres.
In favor, the recommendation by the planning commission was to leave that open space. That was the wildlife corridor that protected it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put housing there.
That's right. So we could look at, there's other places I would imagine that we could do this. I didn't know that was an issue for anyone. And maybe it's only Bob's issue, and maybe you're okay with it, Bob. I don't know, but you know, there's a few things it sounds like we're gonna need to work with Thomas on, and that could be one of them
We may
if
be
it's a
able to-
major concern.
I do think it's worth noting that the stagger in those fourplex buildings. And with it also being on the curb, that road, those won't read like a typical fourplex.
Yeah, that's helpful, but,
May not totally address
as a,
what you're talking about.
just
but-
in principle and in general, if you guys could minimize or better yet, avoid doing fourplexes, keeping it a threeplex, I just think it's a better look for the community. I have talked to some of my constituents that feel the same way. If you look at Hideout from US 40 on the other side of the lake, kind of looks like a sea of rooftops. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing look just due to the high density. It's a comment that we've heard repeatedly. Anyway, just a suggestion. I'm not the builder, but anyway, that's all.
We can work on that.
Thank you, Bob.
We can look at options.
And there's like that two that are just kind of stuck out in nowhere, no man's land, so to speak, which is an odd setup. The other 2 fours are angled, interestingly enough, so that, you know, you can see where that, maybe there's something else in there that you can move. Potentially, I think that's what you were talking about, you can moving something else over there and making this less dense on the highway side.
Ralph, I know there was some stuff brought up about excessive slopes on the roads. That will also gonna require a zoning variation. You recall where those are?
Thomas, you want to address the
I can
sloping?
jump in, I can give you a quick overview and Dennis can go into more detail. There are some roads that exceed the maximum 10% slope. And I think, Dennis, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
I think they are requesting a variance in some locations up to, is it 12% or 15%? I think it's 12.
I think it was, there's a maintenance access road, right, that's at 15%, but that's maintenance access only. And there's a secondary access road that is at 12%, and I mentioned that earlier. That would require approval from Wasatch Fire.
Is there anywhere
And I
in
think
Hideout right now, Thomas, where we have roads in excess of 10%?
I think that we have,
Ascent Drive, perhaps?
I think what is that one?
Ascent Drive.
Ascent Drive,
And,
there's a couple of places where we have given.
Deer Springs. You know, the Deer Springs,
Oh,
if you go up
You go up to Jordanelle Park.
Oh, no, that's not Ascent Drive, that's Bob's mountain bike access right over to Plunker Peak. That's what I've been using it for. Thanks for building that, by the way.
I think the town engineer has given a couple of exceptions.
All right, has that been an issue with snow plowing over the last 2 years since it's been open? It's a fun bike ride.
Well, Dan Allen said there was an issue where the cut was just made, so that was a good thing. That, for a couple of reasons, you know, where the at the top of Ascent was where it was cut down for the view. That was also a Dan Allen issue with snow removal, so you get problems with obviously what you're exactly, you know, alluding to. And so it would be, yeah, it's having some pre-thought to some of that rather than doing it afterwards would be a good. But what I don't see here is there is no contour map. So
What are the exhibits had?
yeah, where are the?
I
so,
can't find it.
mean,
We got a million.
I need.
Could you go to page 22? You could see.
I see some contours here over in, what exhibit is this? So
If you go to PDF page 20. PDF
P one
20.
or P two?
3, sorry.
Thomas, you have the.
There's,
Oh, there you go.
this one and the following one are both contour maps where you can start to see contours. You may have to zoom in on your computer to really see that pretty well. You can also see on this map, the areas that are shaded are the areas over 30%. Or I think I got that right. Paul will correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, yeah. And then Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like some of the roads in Golden Eagle and Soaring Hawk might be over 10% as well. I've driven up there just to go check it out, keep an eye on things.
I don't know that that preceded me, but Kathleen, do you know by chance?
Soaring Wayne might be more than 10% coming in, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, even the entrance to Golden Eagle, as soon as you enter the subdivision, that's a pretty steep hill. If we ever got like a 3-foot powder dump, I would rate that easily a blue. Did you guys see?
Bob, this is Nate, can I just say that our entire road is not 12%. There's two, I think Paul can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's 2 sections of that road that hit that 12%, and then it flattens out to the 10%. There's just 2 small areas of that road that are at the 12%. The whole road is not 12%.
Okay, and then, and just in case anybody brings up, some heartburn with that. I was just trying to see if this is something, if we already have precedent for this in this town. And certainly in the older neighborhoods in Park City, if those expensive homes just to the west of Main Street, I forgot the name of that neighborhood. There's definitely some double black diamond streets there. Yeah, good thing everybody in this town skis. So it's challenging topography to work with. So,
And like we said earlier, that the fire code does say 12%. Your code says 10, the fire code is 12, and we'll have a letter from the fire department stating that. We were working with, well, the old engineer was working with them. He didn't let us work with the fire department. I don't know if that's still the case with Dennis, but he was working on getting that letter, and then so he did not want us to talk to the fire department. That was something he wanted to do. And so, but I do know their code is 12%, nothing to exceed 12%, and we're not there. So we feel like we can get that letter and it's not going to be an issue to the fire department.
all right, yeah, just the only reason I ask is if we approve this and it gets built and then people can't get up their street to get to their home in the winter time, it doesn't come back at us, but, all right, that's fine.
Nate, I think you pointed out I think the steepest exception was up to 15% for the maintenance road. And Kathleen, could you scroll down just a little to get the top part of that map in there? The other way, sorry. Right, so,
This top left.
yeah, right there, the top left, it's a little hard to see on this map. I think that is the existing driveway that goes up to the Salzman's house. I think that, correct me,
Yes.
Paul, or that is the area that would be considered the maintenance access road. That would be probably the steepest one.
Okay.
For emergency ingress, egress, maintenance, et cetera, at 15%.
And if we're using it as an emergency egress, it probably doesn't really matter how steep the downhill slope is, because you're getting out of there.
That one is actually 12%.
That's not the 15.
Oh, is that not the 15%?
No, that's the 12%.
No, that's at 12.
That's at 12. The 15 is over in phase 1. And we could show, Paul, you could show them that, or.
Yeah. If you look at the phase 1 and you look at the townhomes, down on the lower left, there's a goofy shaped pond, and it's the access road to that pond.
So push up a little bit.
And that's just for maintenance access.
So that's just for the stormwater maintenance access?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, got it. Okay, it's just for a stormwater pond, sorry.
Well, since we're talking about this, and that's the subject, currently, do you know, Thomas, how many driveways, because I'm looking at what is the map on 100 and, page 100, make it simple. There's still a lot of sloping in the entrance to the home, so the front yard setback with steep slopes. So have you identified any issues that we are going, even besides the variance? Because there's a number of homes in town that to get to your garage, you have to either use one of those buffers, on the street and that's really not something that the snow plowers like I mean, if you talk to Dan and team, they hate having those, call it rubber, and I can't remember, I had one in my driveway. I can't remember the two big manufacturers.
Gutter ramps.
Yeah, they're ramps. So do we have an idea of how many that would, you know, we would have to deal with? Because that's a problem with, they catch the edge of the plow on those and, get a problem. So do we have a count on that?
Paul, do you have a count on that? Do you know, are there any driveways that exceed town code standards?
No, no, all our driveways are intended to meet the town standards, so we're not planning on putting in any curb ramps or anything else. Yeah, all of our driveways are intended to be town standard.
Okay, thanks, Paul. We're holding you to these things. This is recorded.
Well, if somebody buys a Ferrari, that's just 3 inches off the
I know,
ground.
that's right. I had my,
You can afford a Ferrari,
you can't get in.
Our town standard change from the rolled curb to the high back curb in January.
Yeah.
Is that what we have then, high back curb throughout?
Yeah, so that, I mean, that actually reduces the whole problem right there.
It does, right?
Yes.
Get your Ferrari up.
Yeah, you should be able to get
The
your
cut,
Ferrari,
curb
Bob.
cut.
Jeeps are good.
If this is an appropriate point, I'd like to shift gears a little bit. My understanding is the pickleball court is going to have some kind of a structure, a facility. Does it have bathroom facilities with water?
Yes,
Okay. And am I correct that regardless of the number of units, if you drop the two up by the pond or you don't, you'll be bringing water at 0.45 per ERU, and I think it's, what is it, 3 acre feet for each acre of irrigation? You'll be bringing water
Yes.
using those standards.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I could just add on to that, we had a couple of discussion points, and that leads into discussion point D in the staff report. The applicant is proposing to plant sod grass in the front yard for a certain, a limited percentage area of the front yard. As we reviewed the code, are you comfortable with having sod in the front yard, or would you prefer that area in the backyard be sodded for use? We don't really have any areas in the community where we have allowed sod in the front yard.
That's not true. In
We
Deer
have
Springs,
some in
we-
Deer Springs. They're in discussions with the HOA right now, with regard to when that was put in, but we have very few, I should say. Our ordinance doesn't prohibit it. It recommends native vegetation, water-wise exotics, hydroseed grasses, those kinds of things. Nate had requested it in the front yards. It's, I think, listed in the MDA that way now, again, with limitations as a percent of the landscaping up there. Our recommendation would be to consider maybe allowing it in the rear yard, just because it is, sod is a different context when you're on slopes that steep, so opening up for discussion.
Well, that brings up a point of discussion around.
And there's a water irrigation associated with that as well.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing what, 18 point something feet of, for irrigation, correct? Which is three acre feet per acre, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that our town
Yeah.
code?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
And so, so that's the irrigation piece, but, what about, and I know Jonathan and I are, closely aligned on the wildfire scenario, and we've created some new standards. Have we incorporated we met all those?
Yes,
I think we've
I've
talked to you,
written
but
them
I
in.
wanna make sure that, because sod does actually, if you talk to the fire officials in the state, they'll say sod is good because it's low and it doesn't burn, but we're also looking at maybe other things, so, that will help, reduce and increase defensible space from the base of the home out to 30 feet. So are we in compliance with all?
Yeah, I did everything that Jonathan had asked me to do, and including the if I remember right, I'll go back to the MDA. Jonathan, you can correct me, but I think it was 5 feet around the house and there's a certain amount, I think it was 10 feet around the tree.
Trees, yeah.
And then also he wanted the word flammable changed to combustible, which I did. I think
Right.
that's what he wanted.
Yeah, I believe the MDA says that there'll be no combustible materials within 5 feet and no trees within 10 feet.
Okay, that's what. Thank you.
And just to be clear, that is in compliance with our wildland urban interface ordinance as well. So those metrics are the same as what we have in the code.
And then, can I just step in? The reason we wanted to do the sod is just that it's fire, the look. We have more complaints for people buying our homes. Why does Hideout not allow grass? Why does it look like weeds? It's just something we've bought enough water for to do the front yards. If you guys require us to do sod or want us to do sod in the back, we probably wouldn't, because we don't have enough water to do the front and backyard. But we have enough water to do the front yard in sod. And so it's mostly for a look. It helps the fire, but it's something we would like to see because we hear it's, and the Holmeses can speak to this. It's one of the biggest complaints when people come and look at the homes is, why did you landscape like this?
Because they're right. It's the worst thing about the whole place is the landscaping, without question, in my book.
So we would like to keep the landscaping, the sod in the front and still meet the code that's in there that Jonathan has asked to put in the development agreement. But we'd like to keep the sod in the front.
Can I just ask, I just got a message from Dan about plowing roads that are greater than 10%. And I'm just looking at the map. I know that 12% is meant to be for the access roads or just a secondary access. But it sounds like it's gonna be very difficult, but those will be public roads. So the town will be responsible for maintenance and plowing. And so I guess I wanna just point out that that's gonna be difficult. So maybe there's some way that the HOA or something would be responsible for plowing the portion that's 12% or something along those lines. But I just wanted to share that information with the council and mayor.
But if I heard correctly, there isn't a consistent 12% grade. It's in certain spots, very specific spots. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Wish to I don't know if Dan has any other comments, but yeah, that would be a good thing to identify because his team's got to go out there and plow the roads. So and that goes back to some of the other things around the those baffles as you come into high angle driveways. I'm not sure what we need from Team Nate here to help us get through that. Can you, Nate, or does anyone want to add anything from your side in terms of how we can tackle the problem of plowing slopes that are drives or streets that are over 12%?
I think it'd be very challenging to have the HOA come out and maintain
Part of that.
a part of the road that's 12%.
I just suggest that
just
because
doesn't-
there are what we're calling, there are some roads that aren't meeting town standards that are going to be
Understand.
private.
But you're doing that right now in some areas of the city. And
I think one thing is just speaking to you, Mayor, on safety, if it wouldn't be safe for you, it probably wouldn't be safe for anyone else. And if the fire department is good at 12%, that's probably a pretty good indicator of what a safe road is or isn't.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree.
I don't know if that's a solution, but I think it's worth
Yes,
considering.
I think we're trying to address how the town plowers,
Yeah.
which could be me at some point. actually navigate this and, can move the snow off without damaging our equipment, without damaging,
For sure.
you know, the side, anything along that path. And I just don't know how, you know, so that's a great comment on Dan's part. Never really thought about that and how we deal with it. I would say, you know, at this point, I'm not sure you guys have a firm answer. Doesn't sound like that. Maybe we can work together as a town and as a developer to make sure that we have proper plowing of those grades and we're not damaging equipment. So that would be my ideal anyway. But maybe we can work together on
For
it.
sure.
Do we know exactly what those stretches of road are, Thomas? Do you have a feel for that?
Actually, Kathleen, can you go to exhibit H, which is, I think it's PDF page 72.
Mayor, while they're looking at that, can I just ask for a clarification?
Mhm.
From Pollock's side, maybe missed it a little bit. Is Ken saying that he can't do it or it's just harder?
So the message I got, and I don't know, is, that, if they're greater than 10%, they're almost impossible to plow. I can't plow that, we do it safe, was his message.
So it looks like on exhibit H, it's a little bit hard to see, but it looks like the only two roads that are showing as greater than 10% are actually the maintenance road for the stormwater basin right here at 15%. And then the existing entrance to the Salzman House is at 15% slope now. It will be used for emergency access, and after construction, it will be 12%. So that would just be this little area right here, unless I'm missing something. Paul, are those the only two roads? That's all that's illustrated on
Yes.
exhibit. Okay.
Yeah, but that 12% goes up in front of those townhomes too. So the existing road that goes up comes off of UDOT is actually at 18%, and we're dropping it down to 15%, and we'll have to do some grading through UDOT to make that work. So we go 12%, then we hit the cul-de-sac bubble, then I flatten out for that, then I go 12% and basically about halfway through the townhomes, and then I'm back to 10%, and then the entire rest of the project is 10%.
Okay, we might need to update that exhibit because that stretch in front of the townhomes is not illustrated in yellow as exceeding the 10%.
Okay, and I thought I had it covered in that leader, but I will make that clearer.
Yeah, I thought our understanding was that we were just talking about that little bubble that was, or the little spur that was going from the cul-de-sac down was going to be 12%. And just to be clear, the intention is to have all the roads be public except for, I believe, as I understand it, the two roads that are kind of, you know, at 2 o'clock from that bottom road. Right, is that right? Like.
Those are both the private driveways, you're right.
Right, it says private, yeah, 3 actually. So the question is that, would there be a way, because then we're stuck with a 12% road if that's a public road.
Right now, those are proposed private and HOA maintained, right, Nate?
Yes.
Or Paul, yeah.
Yes,
So
that's
the
right.
question is if they were to someday become public?
Maybe not become, I mean, to make the road in front of the townhomes, or I don't know if Dennis is the engineer, but I didn't realize that we were. I don't know that he understood what was more than 12%, but maybe he does, because he's the engineer.
Dennis, just for
No,
clarification.
he indicated that where it was, I thought it was just that same section you thought until it hits the cul-de-sac there. So if it's going up through the townhomes, I was not aware of that.
That's poor communication on my side then.
They might as well come clear that, clearly.
Just
have the HOA clear it.
Is it going up, as you're going northwesterly along the road that ends in the cul-de-sac? Does it start off as you're heading in the northwesterly direction? Does it start off going up crest at the townhomes and come back down again?
Paul, did you hear that?
Ask that question again.
All right, hey, Paul, Bob Nadelberg. All right, the road that ends in the cul-de-sac. As you enter that road, heading in a general northwesterly direction, is that road going up continuously, or does it go up and then crest at the townhomes and then start to go back down again?
No, it is basically one continuous 12%. So we start at the edge of asphalt at UDOT. We have like a 50-foot strip at 4% to meet code. We go through a vertical curve, and then I am 12% all the way up to where I hit that cul-de-sac bubble, and then I flatten out for the bubble.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the road where the houses are.
It is one continuous 12%.
The cul-de-sac bubble.
Yeah, all
Walk
right.
us up.
I'm at the cul-de-sac bubble, and now I'm going southeasterly into the neighborhood. Am I going uphill or downhill?
You are going uphill. So you're starting at the cul-de-sac bubble, which is 4%. And then you go to a 12% bubble, or sorry, 12% slope all the way up till the middle of that last, those fourplexes that are by that curve.
And then it flattens out again slightly.
And then it
uphill?
flattens out to 10% or less the rest of the way.
All right, so if you're going downhill in a northwesterly direction, not only is that a sharp corner, it's a blind sharp corner because it's coming downhill into the 12% slope.
It is downhill. Yeah, it is a continuous downhill slope.
All right. Is that a safety issue?
Well, and Paul, is that only for emergency egress?
No, that's where those couple of townhomes are that I
No, I
believe.
mean, once you
about.
get to the cul-de-sac bubble, after that point, is that only emergency egress?
That is
Yes.
only emergency egress today. We are working with UDOT. We would like to turn that into a full access or right in, right out. So it meets current city standards everywhere. But that's one of the things we're working with UDOT on.
This is for the people in the room.
But then we'd have public road that's at 15% and then 12% all the way.
No, everything would be 12% or less for anything that has asphalt on it. The only
From
road that
UDOT's
is,
right away. Oh, I'm sorry, after construction, it would
yes,
be at 12%.
yeah, correct.
But it's
After construction, it
12%
would
from
be-
UDOT's right away, all the way through to the townhomes.
So you're coming, so you're on this street, you're heading northwesterly. So everyone's got driveways. My understanding is when you're heading northwesterly in the street, you're going downhill slightly. And then you hit this S curve where these townhomes are. And that's a very steep downhill. Not only is it steep downhill, it's S curve, and you got you have 11 driveways on the west side and then a couple right here. So you're gonna have people backing out of short driveways on a blind downhill curve. So I don't know if this could be, if they could do some more grading to maybe not make that so steep, because just the S curves alone creates a blind spot. But if the road is dropping away from you, see what I'm saying? It's the way people drive around here. It's I just see that being just a bit of a safety issue right there. And I'd hate for somebody to buy a house there and then come back and say, what the heck was town council thinking of improving that? So.
Do those curves follow the contours, Paul, or they?
yes, they follow the contours. That's the whole reason for those little curves in there.
Because I'm dealing with it where I live.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe that's another reason to reduce the density at that point as well, but it still sounds like the slope and the sight line is not good.
Yeah.
No matter what. And who's gonna plow that?
That's slated to be a public.
With the plow.
Yeah, that says public, right, all the way.
So are you proposing on some of that the HOA will take care of that then?
I think we were talking about the emergency bill part. Emergency access.
Anything else, Bob?
That's it. I can't believe I'm still awake.
Paul, can you just address the blind spot? Is there a blind spot there that we need to be concerned about?
I don't believe that there is because you have your house setbacks through there. And we could even push those setbacks even a lot further back. Because that lot, that lot where that curve is 164 feet deep. I mean, we could make it so that those setbacks, instead of 31 feet, they're 40 feet. But we meet the design criteria for the curves and everything else. So I believe that we're okay.
And this is in our phase, is this phase 5?
This is phase 5.
So, I mean, we're talking about probably 7 years away. I mean, I know we don't have, I'd like to say we have the fully engineered drawings, but we don't. And I don't, but we do meet all the standards, right, Paul?
Yes, I believe that we meet all the standards for the design, for the speed of the roads, the curves of the roads, and everything else. If I try to push those curves out, then I'm either pushing it into the hill or hanging it over a side. Those curves right now are really a function of the existing ground and trying to disturb and as little as possible.
I mean, this
Would-
is like, I just want to give us a pat on the back here, but up there at Deer Springs, we heard there was a visual, I don't know what you want to call it, a blind spot. I heard that at the last meeting. I had my son up there the next day fixing that issue. It just shows, well, we just take care, if there's an issue, we take care of it. But that came up in the last meeting. My son was up there the next day and now it's fixed. And
I believe that we could fix this just in setbacks and some noting on the plat saying don't plant trees in the front 40 feet of these couple of lots.
It seems to me that opening the sight line a little bit would allow people to see further around the curve, such that if someone were backing out, they would be able to detect that sooner and then give them more time to make adjustments.
We could easily do that.
It's gonna be where the crest of the hill is though. You're not gonna be able to open that up because the road's gonna drop away from your line of sight.
There is no crest. This is a steady downgrade all the way from the T intersection all the way to the cul-de-sac. So there are no crests in this hillside.
Well, you said it went from 4% to 12%. That's gonna be a crest, or at least a increasing downward angle.
Yeah, we are changing from a 4% to a 12% at the intersections so that you can stop in the cul-de-sac bubble or the T intersection. And so there is a vertical curve that goes through there, but those vertical curves are designed to still meet, ASHTO and city standards for headlights and all that stuff.
So, and maybe I could clarify, Bob, because maybe it's just me that misunderstands it. The 4% grade will be at the cul-de-sac at the northeast.
Mhm.
But then there will be no crests from that point all the way up to the road. The T intersection.
You're saying from the T intersection to the cul-de-sac, it is a continuous slope? The slope
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, yes.
It
Yeah,
changes from 4% at some point.
Well,
So at some point, it's gonna look like you're driving off a cliff.
no, so that, Paul, can you address that? So I think there's probably a little bit of a mix up.
Yeah, so if you were to dump a bucket of water at that T intersection, it's going to drain all the way down to that cul-de-sac. And we are changing grades, but our vertical curves account for those changing grades for design speeds.
Alright,
Paul, from the T intersection roughly to the townhouses, roughly 10%, and then after the townhouses drops a little bit steeper to 12%, and then plateaus at 4% at the cul-de-sac bubble.
So if you start at the T intersection, when we go in front of those first 8, those 2 fourplexes,
Right.
we're at 1%. And then I go through a vertical curve, then I'm at 9, then I'm at 6, And then I get down to the next section of townhomes, and that's where I go from a 9% grade to a 12% grade.
Did that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, I'm just following along.
So I think that maybe, a couple of things you guys noted, maybe it is looking at increased front yard setbacks for lots 509 through 512. And then this does have to be approved by the Wasatch Fire Department as well, right? To go to a 12?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Next. Next.
Yeah, I mean,
That's very, I think we beat this up.
We'll work with them on it.
okay. Anything else from your side? Because we probably, unless there's a lot more comments, do we need to?
Just a couple quick things if you don't mind,
No, go.
and then we'll jump to anything you guys have
Right,
specific to the.
I think you're seeking to open. the
Open it
public-
up to the public, yeah. But I want, Thomas says,
Couple more things.
two more remarks.
So sod grass, were we okay with that in the front or put it in the bags?
I like front just because the people that are driving on the road, I mean, it makes your house look better.
Okay, so we've got
See it in
that in
the
the MDA right now, we've got some limitations on it, we'll leave that alone. The, Kathleen, could you go to the concept plan, it's like page 23 of the packet, I think. Right now, the way the applicant, is that 23? Sorry, it must be before that, it's right after Dennis's report. There is the area next to the pickleball courts. Right now, what's being proposed is a parking lot that would be a freestanding parking lot in there. There was some discussion, this would require an exception from our code, but to put some angled parking in there rather than that parking lot, we could probably get more parking in there, save all of that space, expand the plaza and the park that is in that location, would require an exception from our engineering standards. It's not shown that way right now on the plan. Is that something council would potentially consider as an option for us to work with Nate and his team? Or no, we definitely don't want to see angled parking.
What does the engineer say?
Dennis, you and I talked a little bit about that. I think you said it would be an exception from our engineering standards. But I think, were you potentially comfortable with it? We had more work to do.
You're talking about the angled parking?
Yeah,
I mean, I think we need to take a closer look at that. I personally, I don't like backing out into traffic. And I'm still relatively new to the code. I'm not sure what the code says. I believe that would be an exception. So, there are cases where it works, but I mean, it depends on, volume, speeds and other things like that. So I think I would have to look at it more closely to give you an opinion of whether or not I think it's safe and doable. I mean, it does work, I've got places I've seen places where we've done it, it's worked, it's safe. But like I said, I'm not familiar with everything with this on
it's a really
on
tight
that
area
point.
here to get that parking in. You have some retaining walls. It'll take up some of the space between the park and the pickleball courts. It could be an option, subject to town engineer, if you guys.
So your idea is to expand the park area a bit.
It would allow us to take the parking out of that park, between the pickleball courts and the park, put angled parking there. We'd probably get more spaces and elongate that park so it would kind of flow into the pickleball courts. That was the accessibility connectivity thinking, again, as Dennis pointed out, backing out motions, you want to really look at that.
But it depends on how much traffic we expect there as well, right?
That's
Right, and could you put signs up for
Certainly,
15 minutes?
certainly, just like you see in a lot of Main Street in
Maybe you
America.
get utility drivers to drive better. That would help.
That, you know.
Let me know how that works out.
Yeah. But yeah, I see your point, but yeah, as long as it doesn't, significantly compromise safety, and that's that's gonna be traffic and.
And my recommendation, if you said, yeah, consider it as an option, but subject to town engineer.
Yeah.
Final approval lies with town engineer.
But
And the town posts their own signs. So we could post.
The public roads, that's right. That's true, yeah. Okay, and then the only other one, I think.
Hold on.
I just wanted to get some clarification, and I don't wanna speak for my two owners here, so they can overrule me, but I would assume, or we want the current parking as proposed approved in this MDA, and if we're happy to work with you, if you wanna change it, we have no qualm putting it on the road, I suspect, versus there, and you can have more space there. But we don't want that to hold up the approval of the MDA. We've got all the engineering done for the parking lot. And
That is our recommendation. This would be approved as it is, subject to council approving it. This would be approved as is. That would be an option to explore, but this would be no different than a condition.
that'd be fine as far as if it's just something to explore, and we're happy to try to do what we can to make things better.
Okay, just I think two more. Nate brought this up early on. They initially came in with a 15-year project timeline. It was reduced to 10. I think at the last meeting, they requested to go to 15. They're asking for a 15-year timeline with a 5-year extension for the project.
I'd like to speak to that.
Comfortable with that?
You know, tonight I feel like that,
Would you introduce yourself?
yes, I'm Patrick Holmes. And I'm one of the owners of Holmes Homes. And I'm really appreciative, Mayor and Council, of your time here tonight and everything that you've done to move this project along. This is the first time I've been up here to a council meeting, and we built a lot of houses in the city of Hideout. And we really love it up here. You know, for years, Nate has come back from city council meeting, and I felt like, oh my gosh, it seems like we just keep giving on this Elkhorn project. But I feel like tonight that the council is very reasonable. I really do. I feel like you want what is right for the city. I feel like a time requirement for a developer, I've been in this 35 years now, is very unreasonable. I've developed with Spencer thousands and thousands of projects. Not one time have I ever had a time restraint put on a community. What would happen in Deer Waters right now if, I mean, we went through COVID, we went through a period of time where nothing was selling, if all of a sudden our approvals lapsed and we just left? Is that really what the city wants? It's one thing to get this project approved. We still have a lot of work in front of us. We had a letter today that we still have to figure out. That's going to take some time. We have market conditions. I think it's very unreasonable with everything that we're giving in this project and where we've worked together to all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, you have 12 years to finish the project, this multi-million-dollar project. How do we get investors to come in and pay millions and millions of dollars and say, by the way, if the market changes, we're out. We have no approvals. It's very, to me, very unreasonable. And it doesn't, to me, feel like the spirit of this meeting. If the project's approved and we've done everything that we said that we would do, and the market changes to where we can't get through the project, I don't feel like all of a sudden our rights should be taken from us because of something that we cannot control. I have no problem. I think that Nate's a little aggressive in saying that we won't go to the next phase until an amenity's finished. We have to build a pickleball court and enclose it in, I think, the very first phase. I think a better way, because I understand being reasonable that the city, because you've been burned by developers, not by us, but other developers, where they've come in and haven't completed amenities or projects. And I understand in your shoes that you don't want that to happen. And so I think something that would be a little bit more reasonable would be if we finish phase one, we can start phase two whenever. Because if you think phase one, if it's 30 units, that's a 3 to 4 year project if we can't start phase two until phase one is finished. It's unreasonable, especially given the weather conditions up here. You can't develop all year round due to frost and other conditions that we run into up here. And so I think something that would be reasonable, that would protect the city, because again, we're trying to be a team player up here, is you can't have an occupancy permit in the next phase until all of the amenities are completed in the prior phase. I think that would give the city enough adequate protection for the amenities, for the parks, the pickleball courts, for whatever we're putting in, to make sure that it goes in. Because we cannot move in a buyer until that pickleball court or that dog park or those trails in phase one are completed. That would give us plenty of incentive to get it done. But this time commitment, I think, is not fair and unreasonable, and not in the spirit of cooperation that we've had as we've worked together for all these years up here. And that's what I would say. I don't think that we can do the project. I wouldn't vote for it with a time commitment. I would be a no vote, and that's why I'm here tonight.
So let me try to unravel that a bit. Are you suggesting, Patrick, that we don't have any time commitment up to 12, 15?
Just like Deer Springs,
Don't have a time
Deerwater.
bogey on this, but no COs on an ensuing phase until the amenities for the previous phase are completed. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think if you're wanting to have something, which we haven't had in any of our other projects up here, and I don't think any other developers ever had that. So I think all of a sudden for you to impose that on us is a little unfair. I don't think that's ever been imposed on any other developer up here. So now all of a sudden to impose that on a developer who's developed a lot of lots up here in Hideout and been a pretty darn good developer is a little bit arbitrary.
Are you, just to clarify, are you saying the 10 years, or are you saying any timeline at all?
Any timeline at all.
Oh, no, every single MDA has a termination.
What's
Even
the
master
termination?
one. Just trying to look.
What's the
back.
termination on
40 years
Deerwater?
typically.
What is it?
Looks like it
Yeah, like
really
40 years.
So
Okay,
Deer
give us
Springs-
40 years then. Why are we trying to shorten it? What's
Well,
Deer
that's
Waters
the-
and Deer Springs?
I'll tell you.
The MDA, master MDA, I think is 40, if I'm not mistaken.
Why are we taking it from 40 to 15?
Let's look at what.
How is that fair? How's that reasonable? After we're given
Yeah, so
everything
40
we're
would
given.
be the outside for
How long do you
huge
think it'll
development,
take?
huge.
Huh?
How long do you think this will take on average? I know there's,
I think if we're just me and you shooting straight, I would hope that we could do 30 houses a year.
okay,
And just to.
I would
clarify,
hope.
so Deer-
Some years we do 12.
if I was your investor, I want you to throw the houses up as fast as I can.
Absolutely, and I'm an investor.
Yeah,
Just.
But
tell me,
that's not reality.
no, I know, things happen, especially.
Right now, the market's dead. It's dead. I believe me,
I've heard.
I'm in touch. We know, we talk to every major developer, every player around. The national builders are slashing prices.
But good growth for a city.
It's pretty dead.
And my wife just got into real estate, that's what killed it.
It's pretty slow. It's pretty slow.
I've talked to, and Holly, what were you gonna say though? Let's come to
Just looking.
some conclusion on this.
So I just want to correct the fact that every single MDA we've had does have a termination. Deer Springs was 10 years. It was entered into in July of 28, and the expiration was,
July.
July of 2018, and the expiration is 2028.
And is there an extension, Polly?
There, it doesn't. Let's see. Now I moved to trying to, where it was, hold on.
The
Yeah,
numbers for Deer Springs are over 200.
the term of this MDA shall be until December 31st, 2028. No, there's no extension.
Well, didn't we do an amendment to extend that time period?
On expiration of term of this MDA, property shall be developed pursuant to the town's future laws. I'm just looking at the main
But was there,
MDA.
was there an
We can look
amendment?
at the third amendment. Are you talking Deer
Say-
Springs?
I'm talking Deer Springs,
Okay, there's the third amendment. Look at that.
okay. But you were just saying that there's no.
I'm just saying, if you,
that-
even if
but
you
I-
look at
so I
Deer
just wanna
Springs,
be
Polly,
clear
as an
that
example,
Traditionally.
we thought in twenty
I'm
eighteen,
not,
we would get through it. And that's a great, I'm glad you brought that up, because we thought in 2018, oh my gosh, how could we not get through this in 10 years? And here we are,
Pretty close to 10 years.
we're not through it.
from a legal perspective.
We're probably
there's-
halfway through it.
And I think in the
That's
third
all I'm saying
amendment,
is,
if I remember, Polly, we actually extended it. And then it goes to Pat's point. That it had to be extended, but we don't wanna run the risk of losing that's at your discretion if you give us an extension. But we don't wanna run that risk, so that's a great example of how a 10-year limit. It is not really realistic. So let me say this too, when we first started doing this MDA, one of the concerns I've had is I'll meet with people, a commission or whoever, and we'll compromise something. Then they'll come back to what we compromised on and make it shorter. So if I remember right, my initial MDA on this, I think I had 30 years plus a 10-year or something like that. I'd have to go back. It was a long time. And so the town came back and wanted less and less and less. And so we actually agree, and the one that was adopted by the commission was 15 years plus 2. Now, you've never agreed to 10. That was just Polly on her own initiative. I'm not being critical of her.
No,
But she
it's
put
not
it in.
just I don't say.
No
that,
one in
because
the
this was
commission.
Staff.
Staff.
Making, so in any case.
What I'm saying is, the mere fact that they put in 10 doesn't mean we agreed to it. They just came up with a shorter period just on their own.
all I'm saying is suggesting is let's just be reasonable. We've been reasonable thus far. I feel like the council's very reasonable. And I don't feel like it's reasonable. Deer Springs is a perfect example. The project is a going concern. It has been since day one. It's ebbed and flowed. There's been years where it's had great absorption and years where the absorption's been very, very slow, very difficult. And I would say that Park City is for sure a different market. It absorbs typically better than the Wasatch Front, than St. George, than all the other markets that we play in. It's almost a little bit recession proof. But it still is susceptible to the cycles of a real estate market. And there have been years up here when it's been better than others. And right now it's a little bit down. So all I'm saying is let's put something in the MDA that is out there. It doesn't really hurt you. It helps us. It helps us with our investors and with our venture capital partners. It's a very expensive project. We feel like it's still viable. We can build a good project. I feel like you've been very reasonable. I'm glad I came here tonight. And that's just how we feel.
Thanks, Patrick. Probably I want to give you a chance to be, as you're our advisor to the town. So what did you want to add?
I just wanted to make clear that, you know, whether or not, if you make it 15 years or whatever you think. You know, it seemed like it was changing originally at the beginning. I think that Nate asked for 15 years. And then, and what they proposed in their MDA was 15 years plus a 2-year extension or 5-year extension. I don't have, from a legal perspective, you need to have a term. You can't have a contract that doesn't end. And that's where I just wanted to correct the record. Like, we don't have any MDAs that are limitless. And the balance is that you don't want to have, towns get into trouble when you have entitlements that just sit there forever, right? A classic example is the parking lot in Park City Mountain Resort, right? That was an agreement made 40 years ago, and now they're living with it.
Yep.
This, I think we have a much better MDA where we wouldn't let that happen, but I do not recommend you have no term. If you want to have a term like they're suggesting in the MDA, I think that legally that's fine, but I would not recommend making it limitless.
I have a thought I'd like to toss out. If I understand what Holmes is proposing, and please correct me if I'm in any way incorrect, you're saying that if you decided to leave a current phase undone, that there would be no COs issued in the next phase until, and here's my question, until the prior phase was completed or until the amenities were completed? I'm struggling understanding the details of what you proposed.
Not sure your definition of complete, Councilman. It couldn't be where, if the definition of completed was all of the homes, we couldn't say that because they all started at different times. We could surely say the horizontal improvements, that's what we call the undergrounds in the industry, they would all have to be, I'm happy to say those would all have to be complete, as well as the amenities in that phase. But you couldn't tie us to the homes being finished, built and finished, because you might have some lots that didn't sell in that particular phase, and they're just not good lots, or people didn't want them, and now we have some stragglers and we're into phase 2, and those lots are vacant, vacant developed lots.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that you would complete the infrastructure in the current phase, as well as the amenities in the current phase before a CO for the next phase would be offered. Is that, do I understand kind of the concept correctly?
Yes,
Yeah, I
sir.
think that's what I'm saying.
I think we would be in agreement with that.
All right. So if we were to couple that with a reasonable term, taking Polly's advice, how would you feel about adding that provision plus, let's say, 20 years? Is that something you feel is doable?
I think that'd be great. And I agree with Polly that a contract has to have a termination. I agree with you, Polly.
Thank you.
So then we could agree, please correct me if I'm wrong, we could agree to have a term of 20 years. And then with respect to phasing, we could agree that if you're going to move on to the next phase before the current phase is complete, you would complete the infrastructure as well as all amenities in the current phase before any CO was issued in the next phase. Are we all on the same page?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think that's
because
correct.
It's a conditional thing. I think that's what most of us are concerned about, the conditional things happening, things are completed before phase 2 or 3, whatever's happening, initiate. And I think that's always been our worry and the problems we've had with developers that we don't get stuff done. So I kind of feel, and putting a term that you're comfortable 15, 20 years, whatever, that I'm okay to satisfy Paula's concern about having a date certain end to this. If it comes to that, I hope it doesn't. But I think that sounds pretty reasonable to me.
Can we put an option in there? A 20-year with like a 5-year option
5-year extension.
extension. Yeah, sorry.
Seems reasonable to me.
I'm okay with that.
I don't see us going to 25 years necessarily. I see us getting this done because it's in your interest and our interest to get this done.
So it's nice to have.
But I agree with some flexibility that as long as everyone's kosher, feels as kosher, I'm okay with that.
But you cannot control the real estate market.
No, not at all.
Cannot, and you have to have some flexibility.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Agreed.
As it relates to phasing, there was another,
Jonathan, are you good? And Chris, are you good? There was some head nods here. So, let's make sure we're on the same page here. Sounds like Jonathan, you were okay.
Yeah, as clarified with the deal, the 20-year, I'm okay with the 20 years, and I'm okay with the completion of the infrastructure and the amenities in the current phase before a new CO for the next phase would be issued. I'm all good with that.
You're okay with
How
the
about
5
the
years?
option or extension?
Yeah, could we go maybe 3 years on the option? Is that
That
doable?
feels arbitrary. I think 20 and 5 sounds perfectly reasonable.
Sounds like you have general consensus here.
Right.
So
Thank you.
if we can move on. Sure. On that one, Holly, did you get that? 20 and 5?
Yeah, so I'm gonna change what they proposed. To
And,
20.
yeah, and with the COs not being issued until the amenities are completed in the first phase.
It takes them 25 years to build this. There's probably bigger structural problems in the economy than just that.
Right, exactly. Okay, we,
And so I think you actually answered the next question, which was amenities related to phasing. You're pretty much saying horizontal infrastructure and amenities before a CO can be issued in the subsequent phase. That was our recommendation. We're good with that. I think you covered all of our discussion points.
well, with that, are we ready to open it up to public input?
I think we should.
Hold on, Eric's raising his hand here.
Just a couple of things that were in the staff report that were inconsistent with the MDA. If we're going to, I don't know if you're intending to adopt the conditions in the staff report when you make your, if it gets to a point of having a motion. For example, in the MDA it has 12-foot stairs. In the staff report, there's some older stuff in the staff report that no longer apply, that has 20 feet wide stairs. But we already talked about this and everybody agreed, as I understand it, to 12-foot stairs. So I just want to make sure that once
We
you
have a
vote on
condition
it,
in the staff report that notes the stairway easement would be 20 feet. We had some back and forth with Paul. I talked with Nate earlier today. He noted that their request was 12. I think we're fine with 12 as long as they maintain setbacks. They've got the 10-foot side yard setbacks from each house. Stairs would maybe be 6 feet wide, depending. 12 feet would leave you 13 feet from a house. You guys are comfortable with that as the setback? That makes sense to us. We're fine with that.
What about the sidewalk widths?
The sidewalk widths are 5 feet for the decomposed granite trails. They went from 4 to 5 feet, and we reduced the public utility easement on the inside of that from 6 feet to 5 feet, so we gained an extra foot. Okay. Yeah.
So Mayor, I think maybe you do want to open the public hearing. That doesn't mean that you're gonna vote immediately afterwards. I had wanted to go through just a few minor things with the MDA, but I think he had.
We need to vote on both of them.
Yeah, you'll need to vote on both of them, but I think maybe you have people in the public sitting here.
Yeah, so I'm hearing we're at, yeah, we're over 2.5 hours here. So is this a good time for a break? 5 minutes for everybody?
5 minutes.
Yeah. All right, so we're on break. Everyone who's on the line only for 5 minutes. We'll be back at
We come back to public.
6:35.
Maybe you're gonna have to.
You guys are, most of your stuff's still, right? Yeah. I mean, she's, it's just, it's not that the it's like. Oh, there's extras and you still. Yeah, so we'll do.
Yeah.
But do we do on this?
Okay. Right, take a seat. Please. So in discussions, thanks, and we're back online, everyone who's remote. So in discussions with Polly, we're gonna open this up to the public. And then we have a few other things to discuss around the MDA, and then we'll take the votes. That's the process that will follow in the next, hopefully not too long, future. So let's start by opening this up to the public for comments. And do we have any hands raised here or online? And it's *6, *9 if you're online, if you're on the phone.
Or you can use the reaction button and the raise hand if you are online.
It's a quiet audience here, so.
No, I was waiting to see if there's any, but I'm here, so people.
Mr. Dubois, would you like to state your name and your comment?
Sure. I'm Scott Dubois. I represent Mustang Development, and we did submit a letter to the council earlier today with a number of concerns and observations about the proposal, the MDA, the process. I'll let those comments speak for themselves, and based upon some of the things that have happened tonight, one of the concerns we had was the nightly rentals, which it sounds like that's been resolved. We do have concerns about the litany of exceptions that are being given, but I suppose those have been largely addressed by the council, and just make the observation that precedent is being established for deviation from requirements, and people will rely on that going forward. The one thing I want to just highlight is a couple of things in our letter where I do think it's important to include in the MDA requirements for Elkhorn Springs to reimburse Mustang for the costs of construction of infrastructure. That's both the primary road that they propose to use, and also the obligations under the master MDA and the reimbursement agreement regarding impact fees that Elkhorn should be. I think it makes sense to include it in the Elkhorn MDA if it's approved, to a requirement that Elkhorn participate in payment for system improvements, as that term is used in the reimbursement agreement and the impact fee study. Those are the primary comments I wanted to make.
Thank you. There was one about the easement in your letter as well. How does that impact things?
Well, I think that there is originally what we had understood was that Elkhorn was proposing to use Golden Eagle roads as its secondary access. And so that was an issue that we thought would be something discussed between the Elkhorn developer and us. It seems like they've now abandoned that. We would just want to make it clear that Elkhorn residents would not be allowed to use the Golden Eagle ingress egress without there being some sort of compensation for those roads. So I think we'd have to put in some sort of a gate or a bollard that would be accessible by emergency vehicles. That's one thing. There's also an issue that exists between Mustang and the Elkhorn folks, where the proposed road going from the UDOT right of way into their development is on land that is owned by Mustang. And so that is, I mean, I'm not sure that's an issue that the council needs to weigh in on. I think that's probably an issue between the parties. But it is something that would have to be resolved before any actual development occurred. I don't know if that was the question that you had, but.
Yeah, pretty much. And we do have Eric here. Any comments back on?
Well, I don't see any need to put any additional language in the MDA to the extent issues need to be worked out. Then we would work them out with them.
Okay. Scott, you good with that?
I would
Well,
comment.
I don't know if Polly wants to weigh in on that, but I do think that if those obligations are not included or not imposed affirmatively on Elkhorn in this MDA, there are circumstances, I think, that if there's the subsequent resistance on the behalf of Elkhorn to pay things that are required under the MDA with Mustang, that could be a breach of that agreement. So.
We lost about a phrase or two. Can you just go back a bit and just make sure that we understand what you said? Because you just dropped out there. That was it.
Sorry about that. What my point was that it may be something that needs to be subject to further discussion between council, because I think there is a circumstance if there aren't obligations that are included in the Elkhorn Springs MDA, again, if it's approved, that could lead to issues about non-payment of things that are required to be paid under the master development agreement. And that could expose the town to a breach of contract claim, which we would like to avoid.
And there were two questions, I think, from the council. Carol, you go first.
Yes, I have a comment. I did not receive your letter. It was sent out at 3:05 this afternoon, and I was busy getting ready for this meeting. And so I really did not have a chance to read your letter. We have talked about late submissions to our council before, and I don't know about the other council members, but you know, with the letter of the importance that you put on it, it seems to me it should have been sent to our town clerk and then given to us way before, less than an hour before the meeting. So I just like to make that comment. I was unable to read it.
And I apologize. It was sent to everyone that is listed as a council person on the website. And that was sent about 1 o'clock. We had hoped to send it sooner. We did not really become aware of some of the comments that were made in the last meeting until just a couple of days ago. And that sparked for us we felt like we needed to get something in front of the council for consideration, and I apologize that it didn't come sooner. There was no intent to not provide it sooner, and I wish we had. So I apologize for that.
Go for it. Hey, Scott, thanks for your letter and your thoughts. Was this something that your law firm initiated, or was this done at request of your client right here? The letter starts out, it has come to our attention.
I'm not sure I know what your question is. I mean, I can't talk about things that I speak to my client about. It got on my radar recently.
It got on your radar recently.
Yes.
One of the things that you brought up on page 3, the first full bullet point, is you mentioned there's a concern that the town will be establishing precedent. And then you go on to say that it allows for some increase in existing zoning under the original MDA. And if I recall, you were Mustang's counsel back in the year 2016. I think you and your partner at the time, Joe Rona, were Mustang's counsel from the inception of the development, correct?
I don't know if Mr. Rona was involved.
Okay, that's fine, but I remember seeing your name when I was doing my due diligence, when I bought my property in Silver Sky in 2015. At the time I bought my property, and this gets back to setting precedent for zoning. At the time I bought my property, it was represented to me by the realtors that were in direct employment of Mustang that the whole area where I lived was zoned at, I want to say it was 2.4 ERUs per acre. It might have been 2.6, but right around that number. So we bought our property with the expectation that we would be surrounded by other single family properties of similar density. And then at the December 2016 meeting, I believe, the developer, who was also mayor at the time, along with various other members of the council, some of them who were in the developer's employment, passed a resolution to effectively double the density, and that kicked off the development of Shoreline Phase 1, 2, and 3, and some of the other ones. So in that case right here, you know, you're telling us, hey, watch out for establishing precedent, but you already guys, I feel like the developer kind of pulled a bait and switch on us. And that's what you're cautioning us against right here. So I'm not sure what the difference is.
I'm sorry, who was just speaking?
This is Robert Nadelberg. the town council.
Mr. So I obviously can't speak to what a real estate agent may or may not have told you 9 years ago. And obviously, when you buy into a property, you have to look at CC&Rs, you have to look at what's vested, you have to look at what's recorded. And I would freely admit that real estate agents at times get over their skis and make representations, but I have no knowledge of anything that has to do with what you just said, other than there's a vested code, there's zoning that's described in the vested code, but we're really not here to talk about that. I'm happy to have a discussion, a further discussion. I want to keep it focused on this project, and what we're looking at is that this is 114 acres. They're proposing 230 units on those 114 acres. That's 2.2 units per acre. Mustang has 2,000 acres. So using the same math, that gives us more than 4,000 acres. I'm not saying that we're going to ever request that. I'm just saying that when you make decisions, I mean, the code was adopted for a reason. The provisions of the codes were adopted for a reason. The zoning was adopted for a reason. And if you're going to make wholesale exceptions to those codes and essentially create a whole new code that's applicable to one developer and one development, you can't constrain it to that one development. If you're going to make exceptions for one, you make it for others. And that's all we're saying.
We can't hear you, Scott.
I think we're gonna be listening.
I think he's back now. He's moved.
I
So,
did.
Hey
I don't
guys,
know if you.
I heard everything Scott said. Maybe the room lost it, but he had finished.
I did finish.
All right, the only reason I brought it up is because, you know, we have an MDA, like you said, we have the MDA codes for a reason. But the example I was pointing out is that, you know, at the time I had bought my lot, there was the developer who was also the zone regulator, arbitrarily changed the density by a significant amount. And so I guess I would tend to agree in your bullet point that yes, that is something that should be considered, but you know, it's been done before, so. That's all.
Scott, any last comments? Because we're gonna have to move on.
I don't have any last comments. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank
Hey,
you for
so
your-
Ralph, I just had a question for Scott. Scott, it's Chris Byer. I believe you're are are you thinking there are system improvements that Elkhorn Springs would be connecting to from the original MDA?
If you, and thanks for the question, if you review the impact fee study that was done by the town, they identify certain neighborhoods that have connect to system improvements and some that don't. And
Yes.
the conclusion, for example, the conclusion in the impact fee study is that every development in the town benefits from the system improvements for the roads, because it's the roads that are servicing City Hall and those areas of town are a system that everybody benefits from. I think you'd have to look at the exact, I don't know what, I think they probably would also tie into storm. I don't think that there are some provisions or some parts of the system that they probably don't tie into. And so I think you just would have to do an analysis of what systems are being tied into, just compared to, same way that you would look at Golden Eagle. Golden Eagle has to pay for some of the system improvements.
So yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was there for that 2-3 years that we went through the IFFP and then ultimately the reimbursement agreement. And we did exclude all of Hideout Local District 1, from that, right? Because that was different financing mechanism. So just what I remember from that, and also what I know from this upzone that this other developer is looking for, Scott. I just don't see how this development is tying into those system items. So if you see it differently, I mean, we should be having a conversation, right? But I don't see how that is, and I don't know how we would be able to obligate this development with that.
I think we're getting pretty far afield here from the matters that have been noticed up for the public discussion. Holly, are we getting dangerously beyond the notice, or, should we return to the subject at hand?
I think that these are tied to the comments that were made, but I don't know that there's anything more here.
No, I think we move on, and again, back to thanking you, Scott, for joining us and all those comments.
Mayor, could I address an issue in that letter?
Oh, yeah.
I need to address an issue.
You okay? Thomas needs to address an issue. So
In this public comment, there was in this letter, the following paragraph, and I just need to put this on the record. Conflict of interest. While Mustang does not have a full disclosure of all the details, it has been troubling to observe that Thomas Eddington is designated as and holds himself out to be the town, while at the same time acting as the planner and proponent for the Elkhorn Springs developer. This is an obvious and likely non-waivable conflict of interest. The town should ask questions about undue influence, conflicts, and who is protecting the town, given that its planner may be working for and as the proponent of the Elkhorn Springs developer. This is particularly true as Mr. Eddington has not shown favoritism and in fact has shown open hostility to other developers. I just want to put on the record that I do not have a conflict of interest. This is a false statement. I am protecting the town as the town planner, and I am not employed by Nate Brock Bank, Elkhorn Springs, or any of that entity, just to be very clear.
Thanks, Thomas.
And let me just briefly respond to that. Mr. Eddington, if that's the case, I apologize for including that in this letter. I have been told, I was informed that that you were providing advice and assistance to the developer at the beginning of the project. And if I'm mistaken about that information, or I was someone told me incorrect information, I publicly apologize to you for that.
Yeah, I have not. I have always acted as the town planner in the interest of the town.
Okay, additional comments. That was one lengthy comment and a lot of queries. Do we have any other folks that would like to comment?
Yes, Ingram Quick, Shoreline. First thing is, I wanted to ask the council when as they deliberate on this, that we go ahead and approve this opportunity for the city or town, excuse me, town. You know,
Actually, it is a city.
We are a city.
are we a city or town?
We're a town, people. We're a city.
We're a city.
I stand corrected.
But regardless.
So regardless, you know, I would ask that the council consider this opportunity for the city and not the opportunity that it will bring to us, you know. I'm a nuts and bolts guy, straight to the bottom line, don't mess. We're talking $4 million here, people. To help our town become, our city become a better city. And we should not just think about this lightly. We have the old adage, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and the application of the law. I'm sure everyone has heard that since we have so many bloody lawyers. You know, we should actually sit there and say, hey, let's work on this. Let's work this. This is a living document. We know it's going to change. This is a 20-year program, supposedly, with an extension. You know, COVID came, my house that I bought on Shoreline, when I bought on Shoreline, it was dead. They actually stopped when we were about to sign the dotted line. So I would say that. And the last thing, real fast, is, you know, I think there was some discussion about the road 248. I didn't really hear anything about, you know, adding or discussing speed limits. I don't understand why, or if anything has been done on actually getting a speed limit thing. We're all worried about jug handles and left turn chains, and right turn thing. You get the thing slowed down, I think that'll help a lot. And then put some popo out there, problem solved.
We have talked about with UDOT speed, slowing things
Okay,
down
and
all across the corridor. So that's part of the game plan in general. Signs, slowing speeds, better approaches to turning, whether it's jug handles, lights, or middle lane. So all of those are on the table right now. And all of those are dependent upon the priorities that UDOT also has. And that's why we started a petition in town to get enough signatures to push forward all four of those
Okay.
ideas.
And last thing is, so are we you know, remember, we're putting a fire station up there. So I'm assuming we're leveraging Wasatch Fire District to also lean into UDOT to say, hey, look, I'm gonna have fire trucks coming out here and pushing that. So we're leveraging all the tools out there that we have. You know, petitions are good, but you also, as much as I hate to say it, you also have to work within the system. And if we don't even look like we're attempting to work in the system, that's just gonna blow us
Well,
off.
we started working within the system.
Okay.
And then realized that we also have to eat around the edges a bit to put some pressure on the appropriate people. So
You
good
brings up,
points.
Ingram brings up a good point though, like having the fire department behind you and publicly doing that is it's a very good strategy. I think we should really lean into that. Who's against that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you put, you know, our firefighters, our first responders, they're turning onto that road. You know, that road really needs to be 55. I'm honest, I'll leave it at that, I just don't understand, I just don't understand why this is such a
I don't
complex.
think anybody wants to hear it, it's probably.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me, I'll go down to UDOT, I don't have anything to do all day.
Once,
I have no
once
problem.
again, once again, I think we're getting a little beyond the matter at hand. The speed limit on 248 is probably something that we need to defer for another day.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great comments, thank you. I'm glad to work with you on that. Any other comments here or online? Alicia, do we have any? A lot of people there, but no comments. Okay, well then we'll close public comment. And we'll get back to a couple of loose items, I think, that were not covered. I have one, and that is, and I've talked about this from the beginning, and I think we're a bit into the MDA piece. Should we talk about the MDA or just some open items at this point?
Yeah, I think that because the rezone is so tied to the MDA, you're not going to grant the rezone without the MDA requirements, that you can talk about both at the same time, and then when we're all done, you'll have two separate things.
Well, I know you have some comments. I have one comment, and that is, right from the beginning, even before this project, a hydrologist, Van King, who's a noted hydrologist from the state, identified two spots on this property that potentially have culinary wall possibilities to it. And it's on the Tuhay fault line, as I call it. It comes across from Tuhay side, and it's a fissure, and he's identified two spots. I have talked to Mr. Brockbank, if you're still on the line here, that the town would take ownership of those, or if they're not covered by some building or some, a street, so to speak, in the current configuration, that they revert to the town so that we can potentially use those for additional culinary water. And I'd like to have that written into the MDA. We've already talked about this. Nate, are you still on the line? Do you remember?
Yes.
Multiple conversations around that?
Yes, I'm still on, and the way you just worded it is completely fine, as long as it's not covered by a road, house, doesn't affect our water system. We don't see any reason that the town couldn't use those.
Yeah, and I'd ask one more thing, Nate, and that is, if the current configuration of what you've proposed is covering something up and we could move it, we'd work with you to potentially find that we've been moving things around, so to speak, in Lego blocks a bit. So if it's possible, if it's covered up, that we might find a better spot for where it's being covered up, whatever that is. Does that make sense, Nate?
Yes, yep, that's fine.
Okay, so that was my big item that I knew. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I had a couple items. I don't care if I go before or after Polly.
Maybe Polly goes first and then Eric, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I had something, and I had some comments in here, in the MDA. So I'll move forward from what Nate said, and I was just also gonna summarize what they said. I think that we have agreed, that the wetland setbacks have to be adhered to. There will be a wetland delineation. And of course, you can direct staff to, include these items and work with the developer prior to execution of the MDA. The next
Just
one,
before you go to the next one, just for point of clarification. So, it's my understanding what we're saying is after a delineation has occurred, the delineation indicates that the 100-foot setback would affect the lots, that we could move those lots somewhere else. I think that's what we're talking about, right?
I heard it was a little more nuanced than that. I think that that's the case for the 425, 426. If the wetland delineation shows that those two lots are within the wetlands, we would find someplace else, you could find someplace else to put it. You're not losing that density. I don't think there's any request to lose density. But for the pond, I think that what Nate said earlier was that he would agree to make sure that those lots were 100 feet, or that's what I heard the council asking for. Maybe you guys don't agree with, maybe the developer doesn't agree with it, but it's up to the council if they have conditions. You want to make those conditions that the 100 foot will be from the pond, whether or not it's considered a delineated wetland or not. That's what I heard earlier. We can go back and listen to it. I was just summarizing it. And
That's
Carol,
what I had asked.
Yeah,
But
okay.
then we could move those 2 lots somewhere else.
Right. That's
Yeah,
And that'd be even better.
And we even talked about that on the smaller wetland as well. We could move them somewhere else if they're just, if they're deemed wetlands or quality wetlands, but not formally wetlands, but we'd work with you to relocate. Right.
By mutual agreement, we would relocate them by mutual agreement is my recollection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
That makes sense.
And then for the roads, and some of this is just a summary of stuff that we talked about. I just want, is the council okay with the great 12%? Or do you want that to be a private road or something like that? Because we're here, I think before tonight, everyone just thought the 12% was just to the cul-de-sac. But now we've learned that the entire road is actually 12%.
Well, no, it's just from those condos,
From the
the first set of condos. It's only a fourth of that road. Or excuse me,
Okay, from the cul-de-sac to the condos.
a couple
I'm
hundred
sorry.
feet.
Yes. And then it levels off down
Then
to
it
flat,
levels off.
4% down at the cul-de-sac.
Right, so
Right,
the
right,
question is,
Who's gonna plow this?
who's gonna plow that?
Well, yeah, but honestly, if 12% was like, is used as maintenance road, and that's an actual standard, aren't they capable of doing portions of the road that are 12%? I don't wanna speak for them, I'm just,
I can't speak for them either.
but I
was
think
just
we
glad what
should have it as an open question that should be determined.
Okay.
That I think it's up to, this is in your, your kind of domain. We can't speak to the 12% if that's a problem or not, but I think it's worth them doing a little investigating.
Okay,
Would you
and
agree?
maybe that's just something, a direction to work with the developer on.
Well, I mean, ideally, we'd wanna see just one, snowplow operation,
Yeah.
and snowplow it.
Correct.
So we don't wanna see two different,
Well,
organizations.
they are already going to be maintaining the private roads, the 3 private roads. Remember, there are private
Oh,
roads.
yeah, true, yeah.
Would
On
the
That's
Would
one
the-
long road.
Would the developer be willing to consider handling the snow plowing for that road? Is that something that the developer and then would pass it on to the HOA? Is that a reasonable consideration?
Pat or Spencer, can you answer that as the builder?
Why don't we just check with the plow people, cause people are plowing all over the place, 12%.
Yeah,
I have
speak for it, but I
perfect,
kinda feel the same way, like, let's ask the people.
It's a
who do this
public
for a
road.
living First, and then.
That's
see
the
what they
problem.
say.
It's a public road. It's not a private road.
So that's, I think, what Polly is suggesting, that maybe this just become a private road.
Public's gonna use them.
Entirely.
And,
You gotta change.
Okay.
no, that turns into a problem, I think.
I think it's not gonna be a problem plowing it because they plow these types of roads all the time.
It's
So
like a stretch of 30 feet or
Yeah.
40 feet, right? Is that what we're talking about? I kind of.
That's all we're talking is about 100.
let's move out. something else.
Could we agree?
With our plow.
If I may, during the meeting, and granted, it's not very much, but I've had some text exchanges with both our public works director and with Elkhorn's engineer. Our public works director has said that with the equipment that they have, they can't plow more than 10%. So I don't know if maybe there's investment in some different equipment or some more robust equipment that would be capable of that. I'm not sure exactly what tools they have that way. You know, because, you know, there are roads that are at 12% or more that are, you know, are plowed. You know, it is a safety concern, particularly where we're in a residential area here, streets are narrower. So, you know, that's a concern. I think we need to investigate that more. Also, there might be some design alterations that can be done to possibly improve that situation. That we can look at. You know, I'm not sure how we handle that tonight, but maybe with some direction that we continue to look at that to find a safe solution to how those roads are plowed, whether that be that the HOA take that over, that we can make some design changes, or perhaps, you know, some better equipment for our public works staff. That's all.
If I'm not mistaken, this is phase
That's
5,
fine.
is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
a number of years.
yeah, okay. We have a little bit of time to figure this out.
Okay.
Would it be possible to say this? If new additional different snow plowing equipment is necessary for the 12%, that the town and the developer would split the cost of that? Is that something we could do?
Don't forget, we're talking about 8 years down the road, most likely on phase 5.
Right. And so my thought is if, and this is the big if special, different, or whatever equipment is required to plow the 12% safely, can we agree to split the cost of that equipment 50-50 at that point in time?
Problem with an open-ended, I have no idea.
Jonathan, I toss that out there as a possibility. I'm not saying that's the solution.
No,
Just
I agree. I
saying.
understand. I'm just
It's
looking
just-
for
yeah.
options
Yeah,
to close
we'll work
the loop.
together. Let's just,
Yeah, everyone.
we'll work together to solve the problem.
We'll solve it.
Okay, so I think the other stuff, I had one question, and maybe I'm the only one, I'll put this as a note in here. I don't know where that plaza is, I know where the mayor park is. But I was trying, what I plan to do for the final version of this is put in, you know, so I'm going to the MDA 1.11.2 parks. And it lists the 5 parks that are amenities for this. And I've tried to link each park to the phase that it's in so that it's just clear when they'll be built. I don't know where the plaza is. I could not locate it on the exhibit.
Plaza is
That's
just to the right of the pickleball court.
But that's the
To the
mayor
east.
park. So
That's
is
the mayor park.
So what's the
But it's
difference?
called-
Plaza and Mayor Park are the same thing.
It's the same.
Yes.
So you
Same
have
thing.
it as 2 different things in your, you list in parks 5 things, so it should really be 4 things, is that right?
I guess that'd be right, yeah.
By the way, I think Phil's name is misspelled.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we fixed it, we're fixing it.
Yeah. It's not gonna be where we have yeah, anyway, okay, so then that needs to be corrected in the MDA, easy to do. I just wanted to clarify that, because I was trying to match what they're giving.
Sure.
So there's really 4 parks. Okay, so the mayor park is actually a plaza, or is it a plaza / park?
It's a park, park, I think, right? It's got some open space and some hardscape space, as I
Yeah,
understand.
I don't know what you
Yes.
call the technical term for plaza is.
Okay.
Plaza Park.
And then, sorry, I'm just trying to. Okay, I think we're. I have just a note about the term, so we've talked about that already. That was kind of the main stuff. I just wanted to make sure that we hit all that and hit the thing about the wells. And I think that, so the direction I heard was to put something in about access to the, you know, having the ability to develop those wells, as well as working together to make those wells accessible so that we can.
Yeah, yeah. I think.
Polly, I have a question for Polly.
Yeah.
And it was in your notes, the 58,000 for the preliminary design on the, and construction drawings. are you okay with just that?
That's up to you
I
guys.
thought it was
We-
a question.
I think that we talked about it last month and it seemed that the council was okay with the 58,000. We had kind of negotiated more at the planning commission, but you guys were okay with what they wanted to provide and what it's gonna be on the town to do the work now. We have some bids. I can't remember how long they're good for, but, and I think that it was actually Dennis pointed that out also at the beginning. What they're giving us is just more high level.
And the sign as well, that's.
And the sign, right, that's all listed
Yeah.
in there. And I think, I don't know if it was helpful for you, it was very helpful for me. I made a timeline of when all the amenities come in with the phasing. So that you can just eyeball it to understand when that's coming in.
That was very helpful.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is actually on just the resolution, and I just wanna, and I think I'm sure the developer will bring this up, is that, it's just the language to make sure that the ownership. So my understanding is that the developer is not going to be owning the development when the development agreement is going to be recorded. In which case we're going to, I just want to highlight that we will have to have the actual owner of the property be a signatory, because I don't think we can work with Wasatch County, but we can't, the owner of the property, you can't record something against somebody else's property.
And I sent some language to Polly to address that, but basically what it says, and it's my understanding this has been done by this town and others, is we will provide you with a written authorization from the seller that we can sign that on his behalf.
That's the Salzman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll just have to be recorded,
Yeah, so,
because this development agreement will be recorded.
yeah,
It's a
that's fine.
minor,
That's fine. We don't have a
I
problem.
just wanted, there was just on my tick list, so those are kind of the only things I have.
So let me
Go ahead, Eric.
follow up with just a couple things. At first, a lot of these will be moot if you don't adopt just generally the staff conditions in their staff report. So I'm just being overly cautious here. Is that because there's some old notes in there, like the 20, I already mentioned one, stairs being 20 feet versus 12. There's things that have been agreed to, but they're still in there. For example, it says the council can determine the amenities packages for the development. Well, we've already determined what they are.
Why don't you guys just redline and go through together and just?
Well, I just didn't want any of the conditions in there because it's all in the MDA. So my point is the MDA governs. I don't know if their intent is to somehow bootstrap some conditions in their staff report, then I've got about 5 things to review just to clarify that the MDA is inconsistent with this condition in the staff report. And it's probably just a typo or oversight, or they didn't update it. But what I can't have is if you adopt the conditions in the staff report as part of the MDA and part of the resolution, then Polly and I are gonna we're gonna have a disagreement and saying, well, the stairs, she was gonna say the stairs are supposed to be 20 feet, and I'm gonna be saying, no, the MDA says 12, and that's what we all understood. And she's gonna say, no, the condition says 20. And so to avoid that, it only takes me 5 minutes or less to go through them,
Yeah.
but to make sure we're on the same page. So for example,
We'll go through the ones so that we're in
Yeah.
agreement before we vote on this.
yeah, so one of the references says that the town will determine at their basically discretion what the amenities are. Well, we've already determined that, so you can't, we don't want you coming back and saying,
So, yeah.
yeah, they're all listed in the MDA.
I think if you guys sat down for 20 minutes and just went through it and.
But what I'm saying is they're in the MDA, so
Okay.
it's been listed in the MDA, so.
Holly disagreed, feel free to pipe
Yeah.
in if you
No, I
disagree.
don't know where he's referring to, but in concept, correct, we have agreed on what the amenities are, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
Move on from that one.
So,
The only condition in the MDA relative, or in the condition in the report relative to that was, depending on the wetlands delineation, could the Frisbee golf course have to be moved a little bit? We
I don't
would work
mind
with you.
that.
the dog
But
park.
there's
if
another
it's a
sentence
wetland
that
can't
just
be where
says-
it's located, that would have to be moved, but the amenity package is not addressed as a condition. The opportunity to work with you to move them if needed is in there.
Yeah, so I don't want, if there's not an issue, I certainly don't want to make an issue where there's none. But my reading of it, there's a sentence that basically said that the
What page
city
is that on?
will determine the amenities. And so I prepared let me find it real quick.
The conditions, just so council is here, the conditions are an opportunity, just in case we need to move something, we need some additional detail on the park plaza, we'll work with them on that, that would be a normal site plan submittal after this process anyway.
Okay, here, this is where it is, it's D. The final design and amenity package shall be reviewed and approved by town planner. Well, we've already done that here in the MDA.
That's after C, which talks about we might, if we need to move it based on the wetlands, we're just not going to
Well, just have,
eliminate it. It's
we
going to
need to just tie it, you talk, I'm just being an attorney. You're referring to all amenities. If you wanna tie it,
Let's move on. I think we're in agreement on this
Okay.
and I think everyone's, let's go to anything that's substantive.
so,
Agree on that.
on phasing, there is language in the MDA that says it has to be sequential. And with what we've agreed to today, we won't do a C of O in the next phase. We need some flexibility if we need to do another phase, one phase before another or something.
We've already,
We'd
so
like
I
that.
think we've agreed, do you have an issue with what was agreed to at this meeting? That there will be no, this is different from what Nate said at the beginning of the meeting, but what I heard and I have written down is no COs on the next phase unless the infrastructure and the amenities are in on the prior phase.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, we can go
What
from
if,
there.
what if phase
Well,
two's
no.
not selling, and they wanna go to phase
Phase
three, I
three.
think is the
And
question.
do not, and
And
do
there
phase
is-
five.
By the way,
instead.
there is precedent in shoreline for that. And so,
Sometimes it's just nice, and you may not have this laid out sequentially with how the market reacts, so it might be nice to jump from phase one to
I totally
phase
get that.
six to back to two to, but in any event, the amenities will be done until we go.
So why don't you call it pods instead of phases, because phases are time dependent, and pods aren't. So.
We'll do pods.
That's a good,
We'll do pods.
that's fine, Mayor, we could do that.
I
So
won't-
that's,
No,
that's
sorry,
all I'm saying.
sorry, I
So
interjected.
maybe what I would just
But
suggest
that's
is,
reality of those definitions.
is that we have that, we just have the engineer and the planner just confirm that, I just don't want there to be concerns about putting an infrastructure for other phases, right? I think that that's the concern I've heard from staff.
Well, we're not, I don't think we're saying that.
Mm-mm. We're not, I don't think we're saying that, Paul.
Okay.
We're just saying we don't necessarily will go sequentially, we might not go.
Okay, but the way it's written is that you guys have to come back to the council. That's what
No,
you agreed
I
to.
guess what we're saying is we don't want to have to come back to council.
Yeah, but we talked about this, I mean, now you're changing what we talked about last week. You said you were gonna,
Well,
you put in that language that you have to
Well, that
come
was-
back.
that was actually your language that I left in. But the point that we're asking now, the council, are you fine if we jump sequences because of?
Market condition.
market-
absolutely, I am, I also.
So you don't want them to come, all they have to do,
So-
they can do that, they just need to come back to council.
No, I'm
What,
saying
what,
we don't need.
what, so describe that for me, what, they come back and say, by the way, phase two ain't working, we're going to phase three, per our agreement.
So by the way, you're not gonna get your dog park when you think you're gonna get your dog park.
No, if it's
Because-
that phase.
Well,
Because that's
let's say,
that
let's say the dog
phase.
park was in phase two, and so we wouldn't get it, which I understand.
So that's why.
But I don't think it's the entire package of the policy, it's like. The amenities are tied to phases, correct?
Right,
Right,
So if they get phase one and they're not done with it, or they haven't done the amenities tied to phase one, then maybe that's a problem, I could see that. But if they say, you know what, phase two is not working because people aren't buying that price range, they want these, and we're doing phase three. And if they come to phase three, I have no problem at all saying, that's what's selling, and we're gonna start phase three because that's what's, working in the market right now. I don't have a problem with it. I don't know if others do or not. I don't. Because that's what happened exactly in Shoreline.
Then the amenities in phase 3 have to get done before I can go back to 2.
Well, were
That's right.
people happy in Shoreline when that happened?
No. I did not really, but like, you know, it happened. You know, I'm just saying that like, you know,
I think that's Polly's point.
Well, and then what, so it just gives you guys some oversight. So for example, in Deer Springs, they switched things around, they came back.
Yeah.
And they just said, this is how we're gonna do it, and then we could make sure that we got things that were important to the town were achieved, even with the switch around.
Yes, and I'm gonna say that I totally agree with Polly. Because, you know, we do want to allow the flexibility for market conditions to enable the developer to move phases around, but we don't want to wait 8 years for the dog park. So, or the trails, or the, you know, you name it. So let me finish. So Polly's correct. We would just want you to come back to the council. If you're going to go out of phase, it's not, it's just.
they're telling us that they're doing this, right? Is that what you're
They're
saying?
coming
Chris?
to inform us, so it's not a big surprise, right?
Well, this is informing. I don't know if we have a problem with that. We have to get your approval. That's different.
Well, I think that if you guys have an issue with it, then we need to have, I mean, that's why you have your oversight. I mean, I'm just looking at my list, you know, phase 4 is the dog park, the frisbee golf. So if they went from phase 3 to phase, 6, 5, then you're not gonna get those amenities. So it might be, they come in and they say, well, we need, because of market reasons, we need to do phase 5 first. And then you say, well, okay, but we want you to put in the dog park first, or okay, we want a bond for the dog park. Or
Well,
not.
having lived in this town for 4 years, and that's pretty much how things work around here on occasion. It happens, you know, and I kind of.
Or you guys could say no and just let them do what they wanna do, and then just in 20 years, you know, that's, you know, I'm just trying to create guardrails for you.
Yeah.
But
No.
it's not, you don't have to do it.
And another way to do that potentially is decouple the amenities from the phases. So just have a list of the amenities that you want created within certain timeframes. So, you know, that there's a promise of a completion of the amenities, over the course of the entire project.
Well, I'm not sure that works, Ralph. That you're putting uncertainty into their plans. That's not really fair.
It might, well, something like that might work though, because, I mean, when you think about it, at the time an amenity goes in, you wanna have enough households that can support the amenity. Right, the HOA is gonna be paying for the maintaining of most of that, so if we could coordinate some of that, where at 20 houses, this has to go in, at 50 houses, this goes in.
Exactly.
75
Yeah,
houses,
yeah.
this has to go in,
Yeah.
100 houses.
Yeah.
There could be some continuity with marketing and sales and.
And I think that's a win for you guys as well.
Yeah, like we're trying to put some, we're
Yeah.
trying to
Well,
put
I-
some of those in, we just wanna try and do it when
Yeah.
we have enough rooftops to pay for it.
I totally agree. So I think we're both in line on the commercial aspect of this, but, so.
We'll take a stab at that.
I don't know if you can decouple it. I hate to do this at the, you know, because we're trying to move this through the process, but, you know, decoupling this would be probably much better for everybody.
The challenge with that has been that if you are at the planning commission, they had some concerns about if the entire mountain was under construction, earth moving all over at the same time. And then you didn't end up with the infrastructure or the housing, you would have the entire mountain disturbed if you didn't have it sequentially. The idea was with the phasing that, so like in phase 1, you're working on the spine road, it makes sense to do the townhouses and the houses to the west. And then when you get to phase 2, you've got the park and some of the multi-family. You're putting the infrastructure, the disturbance takes place at one place, and then they move on. The construction impacts should be minimal.
I mean, I think there is a phase is a plan. So I think the intention sorely is to do this and try to. You just gotta have a little flexibility in mind that phase 2 is priced with these houses that aren't selling right now. So what do we do?
We
with
just
that?
leave it in the phases. I think our only point is if if it's better for us to jump to phase 4 instead of going to phase 3, would be nice if we could do that. As long as we finished the amenities in the last phase before we asked for a C of O in the phase that we jumped to. I think that's fair. That seems
You
very
can do
reasonable.
that. You just have to come back to the council.
Yeah,
That's it.
I think it's an information, she's right, it's like
Okay.
informing us and letting us know.
But if we go sequential, we never have to come back to the council.
Right.
If we go sequential, we don't have to come back. If we jump, we have to come back. And that's the way it's been. And they've been great with it. What you just said,
Okay.
Pat, we're good. I think we're good.
Your guys are happy.
What are we doing?
Molly, do you have those down so that
We trust, we.
Yeah, it's leaving it as
Is
was
it?
negotiated last week, yeah.
Well,
That's what I think.
I thought it was just.
Well, no, what I said, at the beginning, that you can't do the next. Right, you have to go to the next, you can't get a CO in the next phase,
Until the prior phase, horizontal infrastructure and amenities are provided.
complete.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and that can, and if there's a change of the sequence of the phasing. Then you have to come back,
Back to
and
I don't think
that's
that's the question
already.
to ask. I think that's fair.
That's
Just,
right.
that's
just
already
alert
in
you,
the
right?
MPA.
That's right.
If we're not, I don't think, I'm not sure where we land on this. I didn't hear that you have to relitigate and come argue, we wanna do phase 3, we need your permission. It's more like, hey, phase 2 isn't selling the way we'd hoped. We wanna jump to phase 3. Phase 1 is done. We've done everything we contractually gave to you, and phase 3 is gonna start. It's gonna be a little different because you're not getting the dog park, you're getting something else. But I think.
So I think
right?
it's gonna be a council action, but the reality is that we want this to succeed.
Yes, of course.
So I don't think that there's a problem.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that you guys tie your hands by just saying, come in for an informational. I think you should have it as it's already been negotiated, that they come in and you guys just have to give your stamp of approval.
That's okay.
That's-
We're fine with that. We work well as a team.
Right.
I'm just,
Just
uh,
a couple
that's
of
fine.
clarifying things. There is a reference in the staff report as one of the conditions that the location of the stairs or the design of the stairs can change at your discretion. And we've already hammered that out, so we just didn't want the location changing because it's right between buildings or lots, so where they're at now needs to.
Maybe, couldn't you just put a codicil within the contract and kind of note that and?
Well, I'd just say the MDA governs that, or they take it out of the condition.
Yeah, there's no condition that they would change. The condition was that we haven't seen what the construction would be, the typology. We'd recommend that they kind of look like the Park City stairs, but that we would work with you guys on that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Not the location.
There's a reference to all the limits of disturbance being fenced. And that'd be super expensive.
The limits
Just
of
in the
the
conditions of the
disturbance
staff,
to be fenced.
this has never been an item that has been agreed to. But it was in the staff conditions, and I just didn't want them to be adopted. We don't think we should have to fence the limits of disturbance boundaries.
Are you talking about like?
It's in our code, actually. Our code requires that you have the orange fencing, for limits of
Are you
disturbance.
thinking like a steel fence?
No,
I
it's-
didn't even know what he meant when he
Yeah.
said fence.
No,
even
it's the orange, it's the orange construction fencing, silt fencing, it's in our code, you have to do that to protect the non-disturbed areas.
Is that only when the part you're preferring work on
Just when you work, where you're working.
during construction?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's normal standard. That's OSHA. That's standard.
We do that, Eric.
Do that.
They do that.
Silt fencing, yeah, we do that.
The silt fence, we do it anyway.
Yeah, we do it.
All right,
Okay,
good to hear.
and then the trails, they probably posed a question. It was our understanding that the town was gonna maintain the trails, but she had a question in there. I just wanna make sure it was clear.
So the town is maintaining the trails, is that? Or is it? the
Once we
HOA?
build them, yeah.
Is that your understanding, Nate?
To be honest, I don't remember. We've talked about it so many different ways.
My understanding was that the developer would design and build the trails, and that after 3 years, they would be turned over to the town for maintenance, but for the first three,
Yeah.
the developer was gonna maintain them, is my recollection.
That's right, Jonathan. That's what we talked
Right.
about.
Yeah, that's how,
I think the confusion was is that there was another, there are two separate paragraphs about trails, so we'll just make sure that we don't have.
So we build them and maintain them for 3 years and then they become,
It's turned
then we turn them to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay?
This is,
That's gonna hurt.
okay.
okay,
And
And
they
then-
seem to make that seem to ring true with him as well. Like just
Yeah, that's in the MDA.
Yeah, that's perfect.
okay, and then, I think the last thing was just the default remedy. Polly referenced this, and our only request is if the town defaults, which I'm sure you're not gonna do. But if we paid something like 1.5 million and you don't let us build the rest. After phase one, we want our 1.5 million back. In fact, we're gonna pay you before you start building,
So
so if we give
we
you.
talked about that, and I said legally, I understand that, and you were gonna propose some language, but I haven't. seen
Yeah,
the
send it over.
language. Oh, okay.
I have a copy here.
Could you
Okay, I
go
didn't
over
see-
that again? You know, it's like you're giving us the 1.5 million and you have an opportunity to take it back?
If
Well,
we
what
go
is-
back-
Sorry, that doesn't ring well with
Well,
me.
what it is,
And I'm not gonna agree to that.
no,
so-
what it says is the current provision says. If the town defaults,
Defaults in what way?
well,
What's a default that you're describing?
you wouldn't let us build it, say we give you, let me just. Give you a hypothetical. Say we
Give me a practical.
Yeah, I'm gonna give practical hypothetical. So say we give you 1.5 million. Once the phase one is approved, you haven't built it yet. And then you preclude us one way or another building it. All we say is, if we paid you something and you default, we can get our 1.5 million back. That's all it says. Right now, the way she worded it was, I'm not being critical of her, there's no monetary damage. You can't sue us for any, I mean.
We
Well,
can't.
I still don't know what default means.
Yeah, how's the city gonna default?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it'd be just not fault, this is an agreement, and if they
Well,
reach their
Fault-
part,
Is it
We
the
would
fault in
sue
the
them.
context of how we didn't or didn't perform with you? Is that how you're talking
Yeah.
about?
yeah.
So if they didn't allow us.
that's
to
pretty vague and broad.
proceed.
Sorry. you'd
Yeah,
have to
it's
define
just
it.
tied to, it's just.
This
tied to
is
our-
just attorney talk. I mean,
That's what it sounds like, Nate.
I don't, I
And your attorney on this a bit, so we can move on.
mean, Pat and Spence, speak up if there's an issue, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how's the city gonna default? Never had a city.
Hey, tell me,
default.
what is the default? Give me
Well, we're
five
fine.
examples.
That, we're fine.
I mean, I'd call this more of an issue of non-performance in
Yeah.
not our case. So default to me is like the town literally goes bankrupt. You know, which is, you know, so I don't really want to contemplate, but
That's all.
but it's a non-performance, like we haven't performed.
If you're bankrupt, you're not gonna be able to pay us back anyway.
Molly,
That's
Molly,
right.
2 times run together, let alone $1.5 million.
Okay, we're fine then, leaving
you
it.
probably, you can,
Yeah, I'm good with, I have the direction from the council, we're not gonna change that one, and that's it that I had in my list. as
okay.
well.
Eric, you wanna bring anything else up?
No, I think that was all, hold on just for a second. I think I've covered everything else.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
So,
Thanks, Eric.
so we're still in open session, if I remember correctly. I can think back.
I think we closed the. Yeah, you closed the public hearing, so now it's time for the council to discuss.
Council vote.
Well, both, on both the zoning and the MDA.
Right, so there'll be separate votes, and typically what you do is, you know, if there's any further discussion, or else you have there's a motion, and then you have discussion on the motion, or a second, and then you have discussion on the motion, and then you, vote.
Okay, so, let's see if there's, first of all, any other comments at this point by council. And we'll start there.
Quick question, what exactly will we be voting on when it comes to the NDA? What do we?
So you're voting, so for the MDA, there's a resolution that was in your packet, that was put in the packet on Monday.
Okay.
Just because it was kind of more
Oh,
pro
beautiful.
forma.
Okay, there it is.
So that's the resolution for the MDA. There's also an ordinance, so you can read that. I don't know if you want to look, I'm just on it.
Did you want to?
It was like,
Get
it
it
was
plugged.
me, it was me. Sorry. But anyway, it's just kind of typical language, basically saying, here's the MDA. The MDA is gonna.
That's our prevailing document, right?
Yeah.
Then, okay.
And these are the conditions for everything, and then there's a little bit of the issue about ownership, we'll work that out with the attorneys. And that's that, and then, because obviously the MDA is not getting signed tonight, we'll put in these changes as we were directed. And you're authorizing the mayor to execute it. And then. And then also, you're gonna have a ordinance for the rezone.
Okay.
And we have a zoning map that you should that shows the zoning.
Gotcha.
Just for clarification on the resolution, it's being zoned from mountain, which is a residential zone, but not mountain residential MR, that's a new
Oh,
zone
that's-
designation. So like, there are a couple of places in there where it maybe says from mountain MR, it's just M, so we just want to clarify that.
Okay.
So any other comments from council? Before we have a proposal for a motion on the zoning changes.
So this is
I'll
the zoning.
make the motion. I'll make the motion that, consistent with all of the agreements that we have had tonight, that we adopt the zoning changes as modified tonight and authorize the attorney for the town to rewrite the MDA consistent with all of the discussions this evening.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
So now you wanna say, is there any discussion on the motion?
Okay. but-
Sorry, just for the.
Don't do that. Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, Bob,
I vote yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
motion carries.
Here we go,
Yay.
making some progress.
Yeah, make progress. So we now have to do the MDA, right?
Yes, so now it's the resolution. For the MDA.
So I'll make the motion that we
Yes.
approve the MDA, subject to the discussions we've had this evening and the agreements that we've had this evening, and that we authorize the town's attorney to rewrite the MDA consistent with the agreements and discussions that we have had this evening.
Could you say that again?
Did you want me to say that again?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay, all right. I tried to make it as close to the other one as possible.
You did a good job.
Bob seconds it. Discussion on this? I don't hear anybody chiming in, so
I'm good.
JJ.
Yes.
Wait, did you get
Who made the second?
Oh,
You need to
yeah.
have a second.
Oh, wait, now I
Oh,
got a
you
second.
did? I'm sorry.
What am I showing?
I'm sorry, I was,
Second.
okay.
Silent
And
Bob over
I'm
there.
gonna just quickly ask, is there any discussion on the
We did.
motion? Okay, okay, good.
Everything.
I
Okay,
went through that.
great, awesome.
Okay, so back, so JJ,
Yay.
Carol,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Okay.
The sad thing is Nate probably missed dinner.
He's ready for.
I'm ready for breakfast. It's 3 a.m. So
I'm at the Thai restaurant ready to eat, so I'd like to move forward. End the meeting.
And I think we're just at adjournment time, so any motion to adjourn?
I will move, we adjourn.
Second, any discussion on this?
That one, no, I think.
No, I don't notice. That's the reason.
JJ, well.
Hey,
Yeah,
thank-
yeah.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Adjourn.
Glad to see you guys.
And Chris.
Yes.
All right, meeting adjourned. All right, thank you.
Here, 3 hours and 45 minutes.